welcome to the January 10th, 2023 meeting of the Hillsborough County Land Use Meeting. Would everyone please rise for the pledge and invocation given by our chaplain, Commissioner Cameron Cepeda.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Heavenly Father, we thank you for this time right now. We thank you for this beautiful day, Lord, that you have made. And right now, we just also pray for protection over everyone in Hillsborough County. We pray for protection over our men and women that are serving in our military, and also for our first responders, Lord. And we just thank you for your blessing over Hillsborough County and this great nation. And we thank you, Lord, for wisdom. We ask you for wisdom, Lord, over this board and every county employee. And we thank you in your holy name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Commissioner Cameron Cepeda. We have a number of items on our agenda this morning. However, we're going to go through them as expeditiously as possible with a goal of being out of here by lunch. Mr. Grady, you want to review any changes to the agenda?
Good morning, Commissioners. Brian Grady, Hillsborough County Development Services. We do have a couple of changes to the agenda, and then after that, I'll go through the published withdrawals and continuances remands beginning on page 3 of the agenda. First, addendum is on page 8, item E2, PRS 22-1592. Additional parties or records have been added to the backup. The second change is agenda page on agenda page 9, item F1, rezoning PD 22-0461. There is a correction in the roadway level service table in the transportation review comment sheet on page 45 of the backup. That change was to correct the peak hour directional level of service. It was shown as level C when it is in fact level service F. Those are only changes. Again, I'll now go through the published withdrawals and continuances beginning on page 3 of the agenda. The first item is item A1, rezoning PD 18-0996. Staff is requesting this item be continued to the February 7, 2023 Board of County Commissioners Land Use Meeting at 9 a.m. Item A2, special use application, land excavation activation 22-0920. This application is out of order to be heard and is being continued to the February 7, 2023 Board of County Commissioners Land Use Meeting at 9 a.m. Item A3, PRS application 22-0937. This application has been withdrawn by the applicant. Item A4, PRS 22-0940. This application has been withdrawn by the applicant. Item A5, PRS 22-1006. This application is being continued by the applicant as a matter of right to the February 7, 2023 Board of County Commissioners Land Use Meeting at 9 a.m. Item A6, PRS 22-1174. This application is being continued by the applicant as a matter of right to the March 7, 2023 Board of County Commissioners Land Use Meeting at 9 a.m. Item A7, rezoning standard 22-1303. Staff is requesting this item be remanded to the February 20th, 2023 zoning hearing master hearing at 6 p.m. Item A8, PRS 22-1492. This application is out of order to be heard and is being continued to the February 7th, 2023 Board of County Commissioners Land Use Meeting at 9 a.m. Item A9, PRS 22-1504. This application is out of order to be heard and is being continued to the April 8th, 2023 Board of County Commissioners Land Use Meeting at 9 a.m. Item A10, PRS 22-1609. This application is withdrawn by the applicant. And item A11, vacation petition 22-0019, staff is requesting this item be continued to the February 7, 2023 Board of County Commissioners Land Use Meeting at 9 a.m. That concludes all withdrawals, continuances, and remands.
Is there a motion to approve
Move the changes.
Second.
Motion, Commissioner Kemp. Second, Commissioner Myers. Please record your vote.
Motion carried 7-0.
And can we have a motion to approve the consent?
So moved.
Motion, Commissioner Cohen. Second, Commissioner Kemp. If there are no comments or questions, please record your vote.
Motion carried 7-0.
Thank you. And before we go to the E items, if you're planning on testifying today, would you please raise your right hand so the clerk can stand and raise your right hand so the clerk can swear you in.
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you. Please be seated.
Okay, our first item on the regular agenda.
Commissioners, the first item is agenda item E1 is PRS application 22-1372. The applicant is Tom Matter. The request is for a minor modification to a 8.84 acre parcel located in the west side of Dale Mabry Highway. The request is to increase the building height for the project from 22 to 35 feet for an existing furniture store. Staff is recommending approval and are available for any questions.
Thank you. Is the applicant here? Going once, going twice. For E1, PRS 22-1372, Tom Matter. Adam or Joanna, do you have a suggestion?
This is an application that we are supportive. We're not aware of any issues or controversy with it. If it was the board's pleasure to move forward with it, it's an order to do so if the board was so inclined to have the applicant make a presentation. It is a fairly succinct request. You ask the applicants to be here, but you have the option to continue. But it would be an order if the board was inclined to act on this application.
While it is rare, it's not completely uncommon for applicants not to show up when they know the results, what it's going to be. So if it's a pleasure of the board to...
I'll move to approve.
Okay, we got a motion approved by Commissioner Kemp.
Second.
Commissioner Cohen.
This is a public hearing.
Oh, public hearing. Would anyone like to speak to this item? Okay, great. Thank you. Commissioner Kemp, do you want to make any comments?
No, I have no comments.
Okay. Please record your vote.
Commissioner Cohen?
Mine is not working.
I can take your vote verbally.
Okay, well, then I'll vote yes.
Thank you. Motion carried, 7-0.
E2.
The next item is agenda item E2, PRS 22-1592. The applicant is Sun City West Masters Association Incorporated. Commissioners, this is a request for a minor modification to the plan development dealing with the Kings Point portion of the Sun City Center development. We do have the aerial on the Elmo showing the location of the area proposed for modification. I will proceed. Commissioners, this request is dealing again with the Kings Point portion of the Sun City Center development, which is on the south side of State Road 674, Sun City Center Boulevard. The request is dealing with, there we go, the area, Gloucester Boulevard is shown on the aerial, dead ends on the south side of the right-of-way for 674. The applicant is requesting a emergency access point to be added at the end of Gloucester Boulevard. Again, this would be for emergency vehicles only. Would not be available for any other public use or by the public, and it would be gated, and again, access would be limited to emergency vehicles only. And so that is the request. Staff is supportive of this, and we're available if you have any questions or comments.
Okay, thank you. Is the applicant here? Good morning.
We can leave that up. Okay. Good morning, Commissioners. William Malloy, 325 South Boulevard, Tampa, Florida. Staff covered the bases on this case, which is really a very simple matter of adding a one-way emergency access arrow to the plan. I want to reinforce real quickly that the request was initiated by the master HOA. It's a project they've been contemplating for some time because of the apparent safety issues of having about 5,500 rooftops with only 2 points of access out to 674. So again, this is purely a matter of public safety, nothing more. I know there's some very concerned folks here that think there might be more to it. I can assure you there is not. I do have with us our engineer, Bobby Hernandez, who's just going to very quickly explain how this will be a one-way emergency access point only, cannot be constructed in any way as a full access point. So with that, I'll turn it over to Bobby.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Bobby Hernandez. I work with Stantec Consulting Services, and we were retained to design the connection point, the roadway will be a stabilized surface, 16-foot wide with 2-foot shoulders to give the fire department the 20 foot of clear space they require. And it will only be able to be used by emergency service vehicles. There will be a gate. The gate will be locked with a knockbox. The fire department and the sheriff's department are the only people that will have keys to it. And so it will only be used in matter of emergencies. So, any commissioners have any questions? Or?
Not at this time.
Thank you.
Commissioners, one more point. I've been reminded that the access point is not specifically technically one way. If the emergency vehicles choose to leave that way, that's a possibility also. It's not conditioned as one way. Just wanted to make that clear. And we're here to happy to answer any questions.
All right, thank you. Anyone here in support of this application? Anyone in support? Okay. Anyone in opposition? I'll let you have a total of 15 minutes. So I don't know
Yes,
if
thank
number
you.
that want to speak, but please govern your time accordingly. Good
My name
morning.
is Robert Davies, President of Gloucester J Condo Association, and represent a collaboration of 8 condo associations in the Gloucester Boulevard neighborhood. Over 3,000 residences of the neighborhood have signed a petition opposing the construction of the gate. Last spring, 273 persons signed and submitted their signatures to the Master Association. This fall, additional 100 people have signed petitions opposing the emergency gate. The gate has been proposed unsuccessfully in the 1980s and revived in 2020. The neighborhood has houses along the street that are 25 feet from the road surface with sidewalks. It's an active neighborhood, approximately 50 to 100 persons a day walking their dogs, using walkers, canes, biking, and scooters, along with golf carts on the road and sidewalk. There are 2 persons who are blind, 2 service dogs, several persons that are visually impaired. The houses and sidewalks are not protected from the road by a berm or landscaping like all the other major roads in the Kings Point development. Our concerns are the definition of emergency and neighborhood safety, and also the actual design. We've heard it's a one-way exit only. We've heard it's both ways, and we just heard that just now. So the vagueness of what this actually is great concern to us. What's the definition of the need for the gate? We've heard that it's let me skip over that. To the best of our collective knowledge, the only emergency closure in Kings Point in the past 40 years has been the main gate was closed because a contractor came in to put Christmas lights up at the main gate, closing 2 exits and causing a massive traffic jam in the Kings Point area, both at the north and south entrances. Other than that, we know of no problem that we've had with this. We recently were told the emergency gate's only for emergency vehicles entering or exiting the community if either of the existing secure exits are blocked. We've also been told the gate would be used for evacuation of Kings Point in the event that one or both secured gates are closed. That would mean evacuation of roughly 10,000 people that could be using this gate if there was a problem with the loss of by flooding of the back gate and the bridge over Kings Boulevard. We're told that there will not be any security. Kings Point has security at both the front entrance and the rear entrance. At a public meeting last week, we were told that when this gate was open, there would be no security. And originally we were told that the security would be provided by the Sheriff's Department, and then we talked to the Sheriff's Department. They said, no, we're not going to do that. So if it was just used for an emergency, the gate could be open for maybe 20 or 30 minutes or longer. Or if there was a problem with the gates longer, the street could be open for days or weeks, depending on what the emergency was. So the 8 associations representing over 300 plus persons requested the zoning change be denied pending a definitive definition on what constitutes an emergency by Hillsborough County. because we're being told now that the emergency will be determined by the county. The county has not given us a definition of what is an emergency relating to our neighborhood. What would trigger the opening of the gate? What's the security plan to protect the senior neighborhood from State Road 674, where 32,000 cars per day travel? It's necessary before a zoning change should be granted. The entrance is almost directly across from Cotero Drive, which is one of the major roads in Sun City Center. So if the gate's open, people on Cotero Drive could be residents of Kings Point and just say, oh, gee, the gate's open, I'll just drive through there. And it's a gated community. We have security at both ends. That's why people buy there. And the other thing is that they talk about flooding in the back gate. They talk about flooding where Cypress Creek goes underneath Kings Boulevard. The end of Gloucester Boulevard is a dam for pond number 1. So if there's flooding any place, there's going to be flooding at the end of this gate also. So on behalf of our neighborhood, we would suggest and recommend that you deny this request at the present time until the Master Association, the engineer, who's one of the partners in the engineer, said the definition of what's going on is rather nebulous. So if the engineering firm doesn't really know what's going on and the residents don't really know what's going on, we would ask you to find out what's going on before you grant this. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else here in person in opposition that wants to speak? I believe we may have one person virtual as well. Yes, sir.
My name's Don Stilson, and I'd like to speak to the security on this. For the past 40 years, we've had a quiet community of retired citizens. Nothing has changed in that time to justify the radical decision to put an emergency gate straight through an existing residential area, which is home to 500 residents. None of these residents want or need an unattended gate for easy, unauthorized access. This would never have been approved in the original plan. More than that, it was never the retirement lifestyle we purchased. We presently have an emergency gate that's been perfectly sufficient all of the hurricanes in the last 40 years, including Ian. Once a gate like this has been proposed and is built on an emergency basis only, who will stand up and guarantee we, the people, that it will not evolve into other uses such as access for construction vehicles when adjacent abandoned golf courses property is developed in the future? The current gates are connected with adjacent residential property, which is the way the original land planners got the approval in this subdivision. Your proposed gate would connect the commercial section of 674, which would encourage a totally different element with possible devious activities. It would be easy to attract anyone who wants to commit theft, burglary, or threaten our current peaceful lifestyle. This would cause our elderly citizens to feel insecure in their neighborhoods. Governor DeSantis has now declared a state of emergency because of the number of illegal aliens threatening our way of life and security. Just over the New Year holiday in Mount Dora, a community similar to ours, in the Orlando Sentinel reported the death of an elderly couple murdered by a woman who knocked on their door asking for help with her car. You can follow it online. There is no reasonable reason to approve this change to our current land use plan. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. You have just under 7 minutes remaining. Anyone else? Good morning.
Hi, I'm Susan Wright. I live on Gloucester Boulevard. I'm reading testimony from Tim Tyus, who was a Hillsborough County paramedic and now is a resident of the Kings Point community. He's having surgery today, so I'm reading it for him. He cites the statistics of emergencies nationwide as follows. Less than 20% of emergency calls are true emergencies at all. Less than 3% are critical, meaning time sensitive. Examples are gunshot wounds, stabbings, high-speed motor vehicle accidents. Rarely would any of these circumstances pertain to our quiet, senior, 25-mile-per-hour, speed-limited community. We were not given these kinds of statistics from our rescue squad. We don't have a count of emergency vehicles that must use Kings Point as an emergent fashion because of a life-threatening situation. In other words, their exit isn't emergent. The rescue squad has not provided that information. This is truly a waste of time and money and a threat to our security. Mr. Tyus did time studies with his car and assessed what it takes. These are his results. The Sun City Rescue Squad and the Sun City Fire Department are located east of the proposed entrance. To access the entrance, vehicles need to drive on Route 674 westbound lane, cross over at Cortaro Drive, turn left, and then go another 100 feet on the westbound lane to turn into the proposed entrance. The currently used main entrance to Kings Point is accessed directly and is only 0.5 of a mile from those facilities. It's also open 24 hours a day. Once arriving at the Kings Point main gate, it takes another 115 to 120 seconds to reach the interior of Kings Point at 35 miles per hour, using the protocol for emergency vehicles to not exceed 10 miles per hour above the speed limit. If the same vehicle were to use the proposed Gloucester entrance, once past the new entrance gate, it would take 132 to 142 seconds to reach that same interior point. This coupled with the fact that the emergency vehicles require permission from the county fire officials to manually unlock the gate at the new entrance, adding to this critical time. In other words, he found that it would take much more time for the emergency vehicles to use the proposed entrance versus the entrance rescue vehicles currently use. In conclusion, he observes, and I quote him, "In EMS, it's always a question of cost versus benefit. It would be nice to have an ambulance on every street corner, but it is not cost effective. The cost here would not only be the actual dollar amount needed for this project, which will be shouldered by its residents, but the impact of emergency vehicles running up and down a residential neighborhood where disabled and blind seniors live, are walking, bicycling, or using Gloucester's very busy designated golf cart entrance and exit to our main activities at our clubhouse. In addition, we have Gloucester Boulevard property owners concerned about house values declining significantly. And finally, if built, this project opens a Pandora's box to future use and abuse by more than just emergency vehicles." Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Good morning. I have just less than 3 minutes.
Good morning. My name is Nancy Peschel. I own a condo at 2305 Glenmore Circle. My lanai is approximately 100 unobstructed yards from the proposed gate and new road. I am here today to ask you to deny this variance, as there is no valid hardship to the Master Association. They said the road would probably never be used. Well, if it's never used, there is no hardship. However, if you approve this variance, there will be a minimum of 4 hardships put upon the residents. Decreased home values, I've heard it up to 10%. Cost of building and engineering, which is about $250,000 as it stands today. Security, the entrance is less than 1 mile from the interstate. If the emergency vehicle comes in and opens the gate, we have now an open gate with no security for the residents to use. Well, might be nice, but how about for Amazon? How about for the Kroger deliveries? How about for the riffraff that come off the interstate or just down 674? The fourth hardship would be the noise. Right now, the sustained noise from the road is 60 decibels. When a truck comes by, that turns up to 74 decibels. When emergency sirens come by, make their U-turn and come in, how many decibels is that? I don't know, but it's got to be increased. It's said that 70 decibels of continued noise is enough to affect your hearing. So I am asking you today to deny this variance. Thank you.
Thank you. We have just over a minute left. Yes, sir.
Good morning, Rodney Walker. I'm a Kings Point resident. A couple points. One, there is a south gate that is off of 14th Street and connects to 33rd Street, which goes to 674. That unfortunately floods from time to time. And relative to the hurricane, if it actually were to have hit versus going to Fort Myers, the question becomes flooding of that area. So how do these 10,000 residents exit if, in fact, we have a problem with flooding? My suggestion is that you turn around and designate 14th to 33rd as an evacuation route and deal with that flooding issue by either engineering it or raising the road so that all of the residents have a place to evacuate, because at this point, the way the master has designed this, it's for emergency vehicles and not for our vehicles to exit in an emergency. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay, our time is up for those in opposition. We have a 5-minute rebuttal from the applicant.
William Malloy again, 325 South Boulevard. I'm just going to address a few points I heard in order of importance in my mind here. I want to stress again the point of this request today is that we never have to use this emergency access. I mean, that we don't want this thing opened up ever. This is a just in case. I fully believe that if we brought Sun City Center West to you today with just 2 access points as a PD, that would not be a supportable subdivision. This is not a feasible or a safe situation that this community's in. As to what constitutes the definition of emergency, I think that we are more than happy to leave that to Sheriff Chronister and the fire chief, because they're the ones that will be in possession of the knockbox key. That's their prerogative. Want to mention that where this point comes out onto 674, for practical purposes, we're not creating a situation that is any less or more secure in terms of people entrancing or coming into the subdivision. If you look at an aerial, that's all growth and right-of-way that comes off the highway. This gate doesn't affect anyone's ability to walk through the woods and come in if that's truly what they want to do. Finally, I think you heard a little bit of testimony about the intersection and how it is a bit awkward for emergency vehicles coming from the east. That was done by design and at the request of FDOT to make that intersection coming out appear almost non-functional so that no one's tempted to use it as a traditional access. I just want to make those points, and we do have members of the board here, other representatives. If there are any other questions I can answer or they can, we're happy to.
Thank you, sir. What's the pleasure of the board? Commissioner Owen?
Yes, sir. This is my district. As you can see, the people of this community, amazing people. Kings Point is, without a doubt, one of the best communities in Hillsborough County. It sounds to me like a lot of the issues here they're having trouble with is just define what an emergency is. And I do feel like we should have Sheriff Chronister or a representative, or Chief Jones or a representative here at these meetings when you see an issue like this pop up, just so we could get clarification, because definitions are important. Mr. Gormley, one of my concerns at looking at this is what it would take for this to become used for any type of general use. I've heard quite a few of the speakers here today that are concerned what this can kind of morph into, if you will. And that's a concern for me as well. Obviously, I want as many access points for police and fire as possible. I think people want to be safe in their communities, but at the same time, we don't want to create something that's unnecessary that will at the same time morph into some type of general or practical use later. My understanding is that it would need to come back to the board for some type of vote, and then FDOT would have to also agree. Could you just let us know how that works?
Yes, sir. You're exactly right. If this application were approved, it would be approved to allow emergency access only. For it to be used for non-emergency, general access would take a change to the zoning that would need to be approved by this board within a context of a public hearing. Additionally, the access to actual physical connection to the 674 right-of-way is under the jurisdiction of the Florida Department of Transportation. They have been consulted about this emergency access and were comfortable with a design for emergency, but any additional type of access would require an approval by Florida Department of Transportation, in addition to a change approved by the board after a public hearing.
And I'm having trouble accessing some of my backups for some reason. Do we have any comments from police and fire on this, or what is the procedure that's involved, just to let the stakeholders here know what's going on?
So we send these for comment. We don't have any particular comment on what the definition of what constitutes an emergency. I will say that we do have we typically, when we approve emergency access, we don't typically constrain that with what it is and what it isn't. It's generally a exigent, unanticipated circumstance that has some element of risk to public safety associated with it, is our general standard for emergency. But we don't have any specific comments from the sheriff's office or the fire rescue. I will note that we do. That one of the recommended conditions is that the gate be secured with a Knox box, and that's a locking mechanism that is only accessible by emergency responders. So it does leave that to the emergency responders to some degree to decide whether it's an emergency situation, and they are the only ones that would have the access to open that gate.
Okay. Could I have the applicant back up here, the representative?
Commissioner?
Hey, so you have, you said you have representatives from the association here as well. As far as support goes, Mr. Chairman, is it possible for me just to hear some possible support from people in the community? I know that we're over our time and you gave an opportunity. Is there any possibility just for me to hear some support from the folks that live in there as well, or is that not possible now?
Imagine it's at the discretion of the board, but I'll defer to Joanna to let us know from a legal perspective.
At this point, if there is anyone who hasn't spoken who is responsive to your request, they could speak.
Okay, I would like to hear from whoever you want to designate to speak.
Good morning, my name is Chris Robinson. I live at 2052 Syfield Greens in Kings Point for 13 years. I am the Vice President of the Master Board. The comment about easy access through this gate is virtually non-existent per se. There already is existing fencing on either side of a chain link fence on either side of a vinyl fence right now. The readings that I took with the master's audio meter on either side of the vinyl fence and behind the vinyl fence, they were no more than 2 decibels difference. So nothing is going to change with the noise that you would hear. Now the question about easy access through there. On a map, if you would look along 674 from probably 100 or 200 feet east of where this entrance and exit would be, emergency exit, there is an open space with no fence for about 300 yards. People come and go, they walk across, they bicycle in. If you look on the map, you'll see that there is a grassy area, so it doesn't even look like it's an entrance. According to our engineer, there is a subsurface of crushed concrete Then over that would be a little bit of dirt and sod, so it doesn't even look like an entrance. The board is, I am recommending to our board that a vinyl fence go completely where the chain link fence is, so there would be no view from anybody's home out to the 674. The other thing is, there's no driveways that enter or exit off of Gloucester Boulevard. All of the side where the houses are small, either a loop or a road that goes in and it's a cul-de-sac. So in our opinion, this is a insurance policy. We hope we never have to use it. But we feel that because of what's happened in the past with the closing of the exit part of the north gate or the north entrance, because we're not a gated community. There are no gates. This is a guarded community with guards only. And the rear gate, or we call the south gate, is closed from midnight to 6 a.m. It's locked. The chain goes across. You can't get in or out.
Well, it's guarded with the gate. There's an opening.
No, there is no gate.
There's just a guard that sits in the front.
Yep, there's
Two
guards.
sets, I
That's
think,
all.
right? Yeah.
Yeah.
And so where the vinyl gate will go, there's a chain link fence that's there now?
Yes.
Would you say, I don't know if maybe your representative would need to say, that it's easier for a walker, would it be easier right now to access it than if the emergency gate is put in?
I don't.
No, the answer, yeah.
Well, someone could possibly climb that chain link fence right now.
Yeah.
But if we put a vinyl fence up, it would be much harder for them to access. But then again, if you go 200 feet to the east, you can walk right in and have access to all of Kings Point. And it's been like that since its inception, almost 50 years ago.
Representative, would there be reasons why this gate would automatically open, like in an evacuation? I think one of the gentlemen mentioned that they're concerned about it being an evacuation point for flooding. Do you have the answer to that?
The request today is not in contemplation of a flooding disaster. It's not in contemplation of the bridge being swept away or anything like that. I have to think as a matter of practicality that if we needed to open that gate because the residents needed to get out in a very expeditious manner, that would work. We could make that happen. It would destroy what we're doing back there because we're just doing grass and essentially as a Knox box and a gate. It's not meant for that kind of traffic. We could get everybody out once, but again, that's not why we're here. We're here for emergency responders to have another point of access.
And as far as what was required, I know the vice president of the HOA was here. Was the neighborhood, was there any type of, what kind of engagement was involved through the whole community for this?
From my part, what I can represent is I attended a meeting, very well attended last week. It was at Sun City Center in the theater. Lasted, I think, a little bit north of 2 hours. We heard an awful lot of commentary, awful lot of concerns, some support, but I think mainly the folks that wanted to be heard had concerns. We didn't change everybody's hearts and minds, obviously, because of what we have here today, but we did make that effort. And I know that the leadership of the community has been consistently making that effort in their internal meetings as well.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Chairman, I want to hear some input from some other commissioners if possible, so thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Myers?
Thank you. I'd just like to say public safety is #1 in Hillsborough County. And what they're asking today is just an emergency access. That's all, just an emergency. And we never know when one is going to come up. And if the sheriff department and fire and rescue department have the keys, they're only going to use it in an emergency access. So I'm going to support this because public safety to me as a commissioner is #1. We never know in life when a disaster will occur here in Hillsborough County, but we have to figure a way, how are we going to get and move our residents when that occurs. Fire and rescue save lives. They'll rush in an emergency situation anytime their vehicle is on the road. And for those who might be living very closely to the emergency access, there's no other vehicles because they're not going to have a key to get in that emergency lane. They're not going to have a key to enter at all. So I'm going to support this because public safety is number one to me as a commissioner. Thank you.
Commissioner Wostel.
Thank you, Chair. Some clarification. The Vice President said that he took readings. You're welcome to come back to the mic, sir. You said you took some readings of sound on each. You took them yourself?
Yes, I did.
Are you? I'm asking to understand where the information. Are you a certified engineer, or it was just more of like a DIY?
Well, I was an avionics technician in the, I worked for Eastern Airlines and Northwest Airlines. And when we worked with the radios and the communication inside the aircraft, we used audio meters to determine the decibels, and even if there was a crowd inside, that the flight attendants could hear those announcements. So I've used one many times before in my career.
Okay, and then I just had thank you, sir. I had a couple of questions for the applicant.
Yes, sir.
You had made an argument that if we looked into the past, this wouldn't have been approved as a PD.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so, and I have a huge problem with setting precedents and what that might be, and because you're using that argument, are you the applicant's attorney? I miss
applicant's representative.
Okay, my concern is that if we do approve this today as another opening, they increase the cost of living of a large amount of people, or is this budgeted into the reserves already? Is this not going to impact their cost of living in Kings Point?
The current estimate is $206,000.
Okay, so
and if the this is a one-time expenditure, and it would be $38 per unit for a period of 1 year, which would mean it's a little over $3 a month for 12 months, added on to our maintenance fees that we pay.
Okay, thank you. So my concern is that in the future, if the PDs change again and they have new requirements, that then that same argument is made by a future applicant, and that somebody could come back into that community with the stance of, well, if you look at whatever future PDs or the current model, and they say, well, the gate's already there, and current PDs sometime in the future say that this should be a normal access point. Well, now it's much easier for someone in the future to reference backwards again, and it goes against what the original plan of the community was. I think it's disingenuous to say, well, if you compare past to future, it's comparing apples to oranges, and it would increase the cost of living for this community and potentially increase the impact to that specific 500 homes in that area if a future applicant then decides to argue and look back again. So for that reason, I'll be opposing this measure. Thank you, Chair.
Commissioner Cohen.
Commissioner,
Thank you.
Can I address that comment, or?
No, sir, unless you have a question.
So, what makes this situation so odd is that the homeowners association is the applicant and the opposition are the residents who presumably would be represented by the homeowners association. And it says to me that there's some communication problem here within your community that we're essentially being asked to solve. So my question for the applicant is this: what led the homeowners association to decide that this was necessary?
William Malloy, and Commissioners, I understand that the driving incident for this application as ridiculous as this sounds, was a private contractor removing Christmas decorations at the main gate some 4 or 5 years ago, did it at a very inopportune time, caused somewhat of a disaster, closed the gate down, and effectively shut down the subdivision. And they've been looking at ways to avoid a situation such as that, because God forbid a fire truck was behind that mess or something.
So how long was the subdivision closed down for at that time? About 2 hours. And so it led people to think, we've really got to think through how people might be able to get in as an alternative.
Correct.
Well, I mean, honestly, to Commissioner Meyer's point, I don't think this is ridiculous to have an emergency exit that can only be accessed by the sheriff or the fire department. It seems to me that's a fairly reasonable solution to this. And I understand the concern about this sort of creeping into an all-access opening, but Mr. Gormley said earlier, and we can just check this out, that would require a full-fledged public hearing just like this one and the concurrence of FDOT.
That's correct, yes, sir.
Because it opens onto a state road. They don't just allow new entrances onto state roads as a matter of course. That would be something that would have to be done.
Yes, sir.
All right, well, under that circumstance, I'm going to be supporting the application.
Commissioner Kemp.
And I'm glad for the clarification, because I was also wondering what exactly motivated this and the, between the neighborhood association and the neighborhood. I thought, we would come to that at some point. But I'll tell you, my first question actually for staff when this was presented to me was, FDOT's allowing this? Wow. And that was actually my, biggest question, because that is really very unusual. And I think there would be definite, if this was opened for any unreasonable use, that there would be very much opposition from FDOT. They would be very concerned because they protect these kinds of access points fiercely. So I was very, surprised by that. Public safety, I just have to, this is, when only the sheriff and fire can open it, when only they have the right to discretion to define an emergency. I don't think they're going to be rushing in with their resources in any way that's it will be. I have to trust their judgment. They work at our behest at the Board of County Commissioners. I've never heard objections except when maybe there wasn't a fast enough response. And along with the critical care, I know someone said less than 3% of these emergencies are critical, and they named traffic accidents and things like that, but it's a huge part that I understand are critical and timely access are heart attacks. And I would think that would be a very significant problem. It is all over the country, and I would think Sun City would be no different. So I think it's important to have this additional access to do things as expeditiously as possible. And I would think the slippery slope cannot happen really, because I'm sure that you or in 20 years the others there would be, as you are, very objectionable to any thing further happening with this. I can't imagine a board approving anything further over the objections of the community, a bigger use than this. And I could very much imagine that this would save lives.
Commissioner Owen, and then we need a motion.
Sure. Yeah, I guess the big issue, and I hear you, Commissioner, what you just said, and agree with you. My big issue is necessity. We could put emergency exits all through my neighborhood, but we have 2 good access points. And from what I'm hearing from a lot of folks here is they're pretty satisfied with the access points that they have. So that's why I think it's just so critical that we have some type of comment from police or fire. That would sure help us. If I had even some type of memorandum from Sheriff Cronister's office saying this is a necessity, we need this, or Chief Jones, is there a possibility, Mr. Gormley, I don't know if this is appropriate, to request, or maybe I have to make a motion to continue this so we could get input from fire and sheriff, just so that it looks like it's going to be a close vote. And I just think that would be helpful to me. That would be a determining factor for me if police and fire say we absolutely need this access point. And even the volunteer squad that they represent there that does a lot of good work. So.
Certainly, Commissioner, if the board's desire is to continue this, we could reach out to fire rescue and sheriff's office specifically on the question of whether they feel this is valuable, would be a valuable addition. We could certainly get that type of comment, and a continuance would be the appropriate way to allow us to add that to the record. And
I'll make a motion now then to continue this to get a recommendation from police and fire, because I think that would be a determinant factor for me personally. So.
Okay, we have a motion to continue by Commissioner Owen. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second, Commissioner Walser. Any other board comments?
If this is continued, would the hearing essentially be closed, though? I mean, would it be simply continued for the purpose of getting that information, or would we have another full-fledged hearing on the matter?
Ms. Lundgren.
So, Commissioner, to the extent that information is added to the record, it would be appropriate to allow public comment on that new augmented record.
So it would be a full-fledged discussion of this again. Essentially,
it would be the most conservative step to take in order to protect the record.
Okay, thank you.
So,
quickly.
Is it a full remand? Is it a full open?
It's not a
hearing?
remand, it's a continuance. Do we have a date?
Are we doing it just for fire rescue or the whole thing?
Sheriff and fire rescue comment only.
Okay.
Do we have a continuous date?
Yes, the date would be February 7th at 9 a.m.
Okay, so we have a motion to continue for fire rescue and sheriff's office comments only by Commissioner Owen, second Commissioner Wolstall. If no other comments, please record your vote on the motion to continue.
My thing is still not working.
I can take your vote verbally.
Okay, I'm going to vote no.
Motion carried 6-1. Commissioner Cohen voted no.
Okay, thank you. Next item.
The next item is agenda item E3 is PRS application 22-1607. The applicants are Fred and Estella Rose. Their request is for a minor modification of existing planned development that's located at 13025 State Street. HTV, we're putting a graphic on the MO if you could show that. Again, showing the location of the property. The property is approved for 18-unit residential development and interim agricultural uses. The property owner of this site is also the property owner of 8505 Racetrack Road, which is adjacent to the west, and that area in the black to the left of the outlined red area. And is used for residential dwelling. The property owner wishes to expand the lot by combining the northern portion of the PD into her lot. The area to be combined is designated as open space and will not impact the density of the PD. Staff received no objections from reviewing agencies and requests approval subject to proposed conditions. And we're available for any questions.
Is the applicant here?
Yes.
Good morning. Please come forward.
Hi. Am I supposed to state my name or Estella Ores? I'm not sure what I'm supposed to be saying, but we have 2 parcels that we own, and the folio numbers are 4097 and 4105, and we are wanting to add a portion of 4105 to our folio 4097.
That's good.
That's all I got.
That's good.
Outstanding. Good job. Anyone here in support of this application? Anyone here in opposition to this application? Can we have a motion to
Move for approval.
Second.
Motion to approve Commissioner Owen, second Commissioner Kemp. No comments, please record your vote.
I have some questions. Is that okay? I don't know if the questions are to you or to you. Okay, okay. Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Good counsel.
I'm going to have to vote yes orally because my screen is not working.
Motion carried, 7-0.
These situations, take the approval and run with it. First item on a regular agenda.
The next item is agenda item F1, rezoning PD 22-0461. This is a request to rezone 80.54 acre parcel from agricultural rural RSC9 and planned development to a planned development. Michelle Heinrich with county staff will provide a brief overview of the requested uses associated with this planned development.
Good morning, Michelle Heinrich, Development Services. As you heard, the applicant is requesting to rezone approximately 80 acres, which is currently zoned PD AR RSC9 to PD to allow for 900 multifamily units and 285,000 square feet for a medical warehouse use, medical recovery/sterilization facility, a freestanding ER, and limited retail uses. This does result in a density of 14.6 units per acre and an FAR of 0.43. One PD variation is requested, which is to remove the internal buffering and screening between and within the development tracts. The PD is located in the Res 6, SMU 6, and UMU 20 future land use categories, with a flex of the UMU 20 category further into the site. Non-residential uses are located along Big Bend Road, tracks 2, 3, and 4, and the multifamily will primarily be developed in the northern area, which is tract 1. It will feature building heights of 50 feet for the non-residential uses and a maximum of 65 feet for the residential. The applicant proposes to mitigate the project's development style with adjacent single-family residential with the use of setbacks, buffering, and screening. A review of the surrounding area by staff found similar developments at comparable heights in the area. A detailed phasing plan is proposed to accomplish the relocation of Old Big Bend Road and provide for necessary access improvements needed due to the proposed scale of the project. We received a finding of consistency from the Planning Commission and received no objections from agencies. Therefore, we find this request approvable, subject to proposed conditions, and I'm available if you have any questions.
Thank you. Is the applicant present? Good morning, sir.
Good morning. Truett Gardner, 400 North Ashley Drive. In the interest of time and given the findings of consistency here, I'll be brief, but we're prepared to go as deep as you'd like for us to go. And welcome to the new commissioners, and it's great to be back in front of you. I represent Camden Residential, and just to be clear, should this rezoning be successful, there'll be two owners. One is HCA Healthcare, the other is Camden Residential. And in short, what we're doing is we're amending an existing PD that allows for 660,000 square feet of hospital and medical uses. And in exchange, the new PD will be for a mixed-use project, still keeping some of the medical uses, but also putting in multifamily and commercial uses to serve the residents and the community. The multifamily we feel like is needed because one of the generator of St. Joe's Hospital immediately to the south, and then also with the medical that will be provided by HCA. And so really this is about reducing car dependence and putting residential in proximity to big employee generators. And with that, Steve Henry's here. We can get as deep as you want into traffic, roadway improvements. We have been at this for a very long time. And, but in summary, compared to the existing approval, this current approval reduces traffic by 47%, so it'd be a net benefit. And as mentioned by Michelle, we have findings of consistency from all reviewing agencies. The zoning hearing master unequivocally recommended approval. And as I mentioned, we've been at this a long time. We have sent notice out 6 separate times and have received absolutely no opposition at all. So with that, we'll stand for your questions and appreciate
you hearing us today.
Thank you, sir. There's no one's listed as a party of record, but I will ask anyway, was there anyone here in support or opposition to this item? Commissioner Owen, do you want to ask a question now, or do you want to wait till board discussion?
I'll wait.
Okay. Planning Commission?
Thank you. For the record, Melissa Leinhardt, Planning Commission staff. The subject property is located within the residential 6, the urban mixed use 20, and the suburban mixed use 6 future land use categories. The site is in the urban service area and also located within the limits of the Riverview Community Plan and the South Shore Area-Wide Systems Plan. The applicant is requesting a flex of the UMU 20 future land use category that's located within the site to the northern 500 feet of the SMU 6 future land use category per the future land use element policy 7.3 regarding the flex provision. Per the requirements of the flex provision, the subject site is located within the urban service area, as I mentioned, with public facilities nearby to service the development. The proposed development is also compatible with the existing development pattern in the surrounding area, which is also consistent with this provision. And the subject site is in an area that contains a wide range of uses, including light commercial, multifamily, single-family residential, and a large hospital complex. The proposed multifamily residential units would provide for a housing option and a mixed-use development consistent with Goal 1 and Objective 1-2 of the community design component, which calls for compact, walkable communities within the urban service area that are supported by employment, goods, and services. The proposed plan development is also consistent with the neighborhood protection policies under future land use element Objective 16. Specifically, Policy 16.1 focuses on the protection of neighborhoods through locational criteria for non-residential uses. Due to the expected intensity of the UMU 20 future land use category, locational criteria is not required for non-residential uses. Future land use element policy 16.2 calls for gradual transitions of intensities between land uses, and the proposed plan development is consistent with this policy direction as the non-residential is planned on the southern portion of the site closest to Big Bend Road. This arrangement of uses is also consistent with policy 16.5, which seeks to address more intensive development along arterials and collectors into areas that are outside of existing and developing neighborhoods. The proposed plan development is also consistent with the future land use element policies regarding development in the Interstate 75 corridor. Objective 34 states that plan categories in this corridor should permit urban level intensities that will encourage a mixed use pattern of development. The proposed mixed use project will provide for multifamily residential development, medical uses, and retail uses, and that meets the intent of the vision for the I-75 corridor. The provision of housing within the proposed mixed-use development is consistent with Policy 36.1, which encourages the inclusion of housing within mixed-use projects. Per Policy 36.5, employment opportunities such as office and industrial should be provided within mixed-use categories. The proposed plan development is consistent with this policy direction by providing for 255,000 square feet of medical uses. As I mentioned, the site is located within the Riverview Community Plan limits, specifically within the residential and the mixed-use districts. The proposed development would support the vision of the community plan by providing residential uses on the northern portion of the site, adjacent to existing residential development, and then the non-residential uses toward Big Bend. Providing internal and external pedestrian and vehicular connections is also consistent with the community plan vision, which calls for providing a safe and efficient multimodal system within Riverview. The project is also consistent with the community plan vision as it relates to economic development. The proposed 285,000 square feet of non-residential development, which includes up to 255,000 square feet of medical uses and 30,000 square feet of neighborhood serving commercial uses, is in line with the community plan's vision to encourage the support of local businesses by attracting a variety of new uses and services. And based upon those considerations, Planning Commission staff finds the proposed plan development consistent with the unincorporated Hillsborough County Comprehensive Plan, and that is subject to the conditions proposed by Development Services. Thank you.
Thank you. Hearing Master.
The zoning hearing master considered this application, and I'll provide a brief summary. The request is to rezone 80.54 acres from AR RSC9 and Plan Development 04-1820 to a new plan development zoning in order to develop a maximum of 900 multifamily dwelling units and 285,000 square feet of medical office warehouse, medical equipment recovery and sterilization facility, a freestanding emergency room, and limited commercial neighborhood development. The proposed maximum height for the multifamily buildings is 65 feet, and proposed maximum height for the non-residential buildings is 50 feet. The zoning hearing master noted that transportation improvements are required by the proposed zoning conditions for this plan development. These improvements include, but are not limited to, the extension of Simmons Road, the realignment of Old Big Bend Road to the north to provide sufficient separation from Big Bend Road, and connection to Lincoln Road on the east, resulting in a grid pattern. County transportation staff testified that the road improvements will provide a parallel relief for a north-south road between I-75 and US 301. The zoning hearing master stated that transportation improvements are conditioned to be completed with the identified phase of the project in sequential order, thereby ensuring there is transportation infrastructure in place necessary to serve the phased development. The zoning hearing master found that the impacts of the project in terms of traffic impacts and maximum building height are substantially reduced as compared to the already approved plan development. The zoning hearing master concluded that this request is consistent with the land development code and the comprehensive plan and recommended approval.
Thank you. Commissioner Owen?
This is barely outside my district, Commissioner Myers. It's in yours, so I always want to make a thing where I listen to the person who represents that district, but this really impacts my district as well. This is Big Bend Road. It's a pretty famous road on my side of town. It's a very difficult road to traverse. I get a lot of complaints about how horrific this road is, and it's why we're improving it, right? So some of my concerns, and if the applicant can come back forward, Mr. Gormley, are improvements to just Big Bend, the exit off 75, which I think this is a place where apartments and this type of living should take place. You have public transportation and access, and I know that it's currently zoned for a hospital, but we're not going to put a hospital in front of a hospital, most likely, right? So are we probably looking at 2026 whenever Big Bend is probably finished being improved? Does that sound about right? My concern is just transportation and lots of construction, so.
There are two project ID sheets for the CIP projects that are in the transportation report. Both have the improvements to Big Bend Road estimated for completion in 2026. And if all right, Mike's nodding, it's still a valid estimation. That is the estimated completion time for this.
So when we if we approve this, then construction on these probably takes place in about a year and a half, somewhere on there. Does that sound about right? Or I guess my concern is, are we going to be doing multiple constructions in the heat of rush hour traffic on Big Bend Road to develop this property?
Right. So there will be construction, of course, on Big Bend Road for the improvements. The applicant site here will be constructing their improvements, and the concept of a realigned Old Big Bend Road would be distinct from the construction on New Big Bend Road. They're very parallel, but they would be.
And that to me, from what I can tell, is a pretty heavy lift. So am I wrong on showing, and maybe the applicant can answer this, the A1 continuance from 2018, there's two phases to this, correct? There's 300 units built first, then 600 units second. Does that sound right?
Correct.
The second phase, I guess, is what I was concerned of. I was going to request to remand this, but if you can explain this to me. The 2018 rezoning, is that the A1, does that have to do with the second phase or no?
It does have to do with the second phase. Currently, the proposal to realign Old Big Bend Road, or what's contemplated as for activation of the Phase 2 entitlements, would have Old Big Bend Road realigned to the north. Part of that realignment would be on this subject site. Part of that realignment would be on a site off-site to the west. Both of those realignments would need to be done for the Simmons Road, Simmons Loop intersection to be opened up and the Phase 2 entitlements to be activated. So there are other projects.
Well, I guess my confusion, if you can clear this up, is how can we approve this project if the second phase is still in a rezone and we don't know whether that's going to be approved or not?
So just to clarify, maybe this will be helpful for everybody. I put up a graphic. Mr. Owen, I think what you're referring to with the 18 rezoning, and just to be clear, is not a part of our application at all.
Okay.
It is a separate property. That's what you see right here. And it's an odd case in that it was a filed rezoning. It went to the zoning hearing master and then just stalled out from there, and has been stalled out for 3 years, almost 4 years. And so what we're approving is everything, or requesting for approval, is everything that you see highlighted in red here. But I think the real benefit of the way that we've phased this, and again, just to be clear, because I know I didn't do a full deep dive, Phase 1 would allow for 300 units, and then also the sterilization facility for HCA of 80,000 square feet. But as you can see, Camden and HCA will be in the controlling interest. So while these, the rezoning to the west and also there's property to the east, have kind of floundered over the years, the way that this is phased puts the onus on Camden and on HCA to figure out what the ultimate solution is in order for them to unlock the Phase 2 entitlements. So that cannot proceed until that is worked out.
Okay. Is there a possibility that the rezone that is being continued is denied, and then that would disrupt your ability to build Phase 2?
Correct.
It would?
Yes. Well, unless some other alternate solution is worked out on that ultimate realignment. And I've got Steve Henry is our traffic consultant. I can give you the high-level details. He can drill all the way down. So
you see my issue that I'm having. It's just, should the ZHM, should that have been discussed at the ZHM so we have an understanding, or does that rezone have to be done first? I'd like to maybe hear what other people on the board think about that. I'm new here, but to me, it seems like for a Phase 2, which is the bulk of the units, we would have to have some type of an approval prior to approving the whole project. So that's just my concern that I want clarification on.
If I could add just one point, again, the main feature is this unlocking of the entitlements for Phase 2, which can't be done until there's a resolution. But secondly, as you can see from the size and scale of these projects with respect to our application, the amount of impact fees generated is what's ultimately going to solve and drive the solution. So I would say this order is correct for finding an ultimate solution for the reconfiguration of Old Big Bend.
Okay. I'll listen to, or do you have a comment?
I just wanted to clarify, to reinforce what Mr. Gardner said. The Phase 2 entitlements cannot be accessed until that road realignment is accomplished. So if it was approved, they would have those entitlements approved, but the utilization of them would be contingent on the road realignment. We'll say the road realignment, I believe, is more than a funding issue because there are other projects in play, as the graphic that was shown indicated. There are 2 other plan development applications pending, one of which has been pending for some time and is really not in an approvable format. So that project really does need to, that project would need to get resuscitated and positioned appropriately for the road realignment to occur. It is at the applicant's risk that alignment does or does not occur. If it never occurs, those Phase 2 entitlements.
And that was my next question. What if we approve this and that realignment does not occur for some reason, whatever the reason be, then Phase 1 just goes through and Phase 2 entitlements don't occur?
That's correct. That's correct.
Okay. I'll let any other commissioner speak then.
Commissioner Wolstel?
Thank you, Chair. Mr. Gardner, just
Sure.
You said that you were going to reduce traffic by 47%.
Correct.
How can you guarantee me that?
So I'll let Steve Henry speak to this, but when you run the trip generation for the current entitlements that are approved that could be built today, and then compare those to what we are requesting, that is how you get to the 47% reduction.
So your comparison is just simply from, you're saying that 900 apartments is going to have less traffic do a calculation. So it's a hypothetical, basically, though.
Steve Henry with Linkson Associates. It is hypothetical, but it is also based on ITE trip generation data. So this is hundreds and hundreds of studies. This is national data. And so we look at that national data that tells us what the AM and PM peak hour trip generation is. And the approved, it's for the hospital and the medical office. And then for the proposed, it's what our proposed scenario is. But it's based on data that has been used for many, many years. And we're on the 11th edition of ITE. So it is reputable data that gives us pretty good indication as to what that traffic may generate.
Okay, and it doesn't take into, I guess you're looking at only this land. You're not taking into specifics, or these studies don't take into specifics of situational arguments that is Big Bend Road, which is in disaster right now.
And our study does, we did look at, in our study, we did look at Big Bend Road. We looked at it in phase 1 and what the geometry is for phase 1 and what the improvements are. And then also phase 2 in looking at what the ultimate improvements are. We had the plans for Big Bend Road, and so we looked at the geometry that's proposed for Big Bend Road in your project, plus we also looked at the extension of Simmons Loop and that geometry and the extension of Old Big Bend Road. So we did look at all those intersections, looked at the geometry, looked at the level of service to make sure that they would operate at acceptable level of service based on that ultimate geometry and our proposed project.
Okay, all right, thank you.
One other thing I wanted to add on the, as far as the phasing and why we're going through the phasing that we are. And one of the issues with the 18 zoning is the ability to build that improvement, Old Big Bend Road to the west. Mm-hmm. Financially, it's not feasible for them, that small of a project, to build that. So they need a bigger project like this one to help fund that improvement. So really, that's part of their floundering has been there hasn't been a partnership between the two. And our developer is working with that developer in a partnership to be able to fund that improvement. So really, we need this one to go forward to make sure that they now know that they can build it and then help fund that improvement so it ultimately gets done.
May I respond, Mr. Chairman? Yeah. I guess if I'm not going to move to remand because it's at their risk. That's the bottom line. That you all are very aware that that this realignment of the road is dependent on that. So there's no opposition here. I guess what I was concerned with is if that's just the appropriate procedure for us to move forward with an approval with a pending rezoning on the second tier. So if it's at their risk, then okay.
Commissioner Myers.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Move for approval.
We have a motion to approve by Commissioner Myers. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second, Commissioner Cohen. Commissioner Kemp.
I just wanted to say that for the new commissioners especially, this is one of the most complex rezonings I've ever seen, just in terms of like understanding the phasing and all that. And I asked a lot of questions during the briefing about that to come to the kind of same point here that, about the contingency of the phasing and that. And I've spent some time with concerns about the traffic studies and how they work and the bigger macro impacts of those and where they drive traffic. And so I totally understand your questions about that. And sometime we maybe should have a workshop on that just to, it would have benefited me some years ago. With all that said, and this is not anything that will come here, but I will just say, I don't know how this can ever be pulled together, but I'll say it, that that right there at Big Bend, we really need at some point to have a dedicated transit lane. It would be an essential place to make that happen. And it's nowhere near any plan now. We don't have the transit, we don't have the lane, but we have the density, the people, the need, and it's only ever growing. So I'm just going to add that, nothing that will come of this, but especially for those looking at this as we move into the future.
And I'm going to support the item, as Commissioner Owen said. I mean, the applicant's taking the risk. Sounds like the safeguards are in place. They're incentivized to make the project work. And as far as the challenges associated with the project next to it, I'm having flashbacks, and Adam will remember this, to the 301 agreement many, many years ago when we had a number of property and owners that were involved in making the improvements because it wasn't financially feasible for a smaller parcel to pay for all the improvements, so they had to work together over a number of years. So I'm just having flashbacks to that one, if you remember that one, Adam. All right, we have a motion and a second. No other comments. Please record your vote.
Motion carried 7-0.
Thank you. F2.
The next item is agenda item F2 is rezoning standard 22-0698. The request is to rezone a 0.43 acre parcel at 1010 Lithia Pinecrest Road from a planned development that's approved for office uses to commercial neighborhood with restrictions. The restrictions are the applicant committed to the list of specific uses that they would be allowed on this project were outlined in the staff report, and then also committed to, as part of required buffering and screening, to commit to a 6-foot masonry wall along the southern boundary adjacent to existing residential uses. Staff did find this approvable. The Planning Commission found it consistent with the plan, and the hearing also recommended approval. We're available for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Is the applicant here? Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Commissioners. David Wright, address is P.O. Box 273417, Tampa, Florida 33688. I'll be brief with the findings of staff and the zoning hearing master. This property was a subject to an eminent domain taking several years back for the widening of Lithia Pinecrest Road, which significantly reduced it in size, and it's also a irregular, triangular-shaped property. The PD-approved BPO uses are really no longer feasible on the site. So the property owner is just seeking more flexibility in what he can do with the property. We did restrict the uses to less intense neighborhood commercial uses, and we have increased the screening with the 6-foot masonry wall to the residential uses to the south. So I'm here for any questions, and I would respectfully request your approval. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Again, I don't believe we have any parties of record, but is there anyone here in support or opposition to this item? Okay. Planning Commission.
Thank you, Melissa Leinhard, Planning Commission staff. The subject property is located in the Residential 4 future land use category. The site is in the urban service area and also within the limits of the Brandon Community Plan. The intent of the Residential 4 future land use category is to designate areas that are suitable for low-density residential development. The subject site is surrounded by Residential 4 on all 4 sides and is a mixture of vacant land, single-family residential, and light commercial uses nearby. The applicant has proposed restrictions for greater compatibility with the surrounding area, which meets the intent of future land use element policy 1.4 by restricting the site to uses that are compatible with adjacent single-family residential and will not include intense uses such as drive-throughs. The proposed rezoning meets the intent of the neighborhood protection policies that modify Objective 16 of the future land use element. Specifically, the development pattern of the surrounding area includes commercial uses to the north of Lithia Pinecrest and Bell Shoals Road intersection. The applicant will be providing a 20-foot buffer with type B screening and a 6-foot masonry wall along the southern edge of the property, as well as compatible commercial uses that do not include more intensive uses such as drive-throughs. Non-residential uses in the Residential 4 future land use category are subject to commercial locational criteria, or CLC, and the proposed rezoning does meet CLC as per Objective 22 and Policy 22.2 of the future land use element, it is within the 900-foot distance from the nearest commercial node at Lithia Pinecrest and Bell Shoals. The subject site is in the suburban character district of the Brandon Community Plan, and this area anticipates a range of primarily residential uses, while commercial uses may be considered at intersection nodes. The request with the proposed restrictions in place will be located within a commercial node and will maintain the existing suburban character of the surrounding area, consistent with the vision of the community plan. And based upon those considerations, Planning Commission staff finds the proposed rezoning consistent with the unincorporated Hillsborough County Comprehensive Plan, subject to the restrictions proposed by Development Services. Thank you.
Thank you. Hearing Master.
The zoning hearing master considered the applicant's request for a rezoning to the commercial neighborhood restricted zoning district. The property is 0.43 acres in size, currently zoned planned development 80-206, and designated residential 4 on the comprehensive plan's future land use map. The property is located within the urban service area and within the Brandon Community Plan. The zoning hearing master noted that the property is currently vacant and approved for a maximum of 2,100 square feet of business professional office land use. The zoning hearing master stated that the proposed restrictions to the commercial neighborhood land uses serve to provide for development which is consistent with the surrounding area. The commitment to provide a 20-foot buffer with a 6-foot high masonry wall will ensure compatibility. The zoning hearing master concluded that the request for the commercial neighborhood restricted zoning district is compatible with the surrounding zoning pattern and the residential 4 future land use category, and the zoning hearing master therefore recommended approval.
Thank you. Commissioner Owen?
Everything's in my district, so if the applicant could come back up front, please. Do you have by any chance what the intended use is of this property?
Right now, he's looking to probably do some food trucks on the weekends, but he doesn't have a long-term use.
Because you can never get on Lumsden from this particular, you're kind of landlocked on this road. And I know when I looked over the possible uses that a drive-through type of situation was not available. Is that correct, Mr. Gormley?
That is correct. The uses that might have drive-throughs are precluded from having drive-throughs by the restrictions.
Yeah, and with the buffering that's taken place, one of my goals, commissioners, I think as everyone knows, is to widen Lithia Pinecrest Road. It's the biggest disaster in my district. If there is widening, will that buffering allow for the widening of Lithia Pinecrest Road if we're successful at doing that?
So there is a significant amount of right-of-way between this subject site and the right-of-way, the edge of pavement and the site. So there is a fair amount of right-of-way on the east side of this project, and I believe that is part of what was taken for the widening of Lithia Pinecrest.
Okay. Yeah.
And if I could add, the buffering is on the south side of the property, so
Okay.
it's not adjacent.
Not adjacent, okay, yeah. Because I'm just thinking if, we do get an opportunity to widen Lithia Pinecrest, what that would mean for your applicant. So, but again, those are more risks you're taking. Because this is basically kind of there's an office park right across the street, the other side of Bell Shoals. CVS abuts to it. Then you got a gas station on the east side. So those are the type of businesses that are there, but it's just an unfortunate situation that we can't make it work to where you can go left onto Lithia Pinecrest and access Lumsden Road. So to me, I think that would be the big challenge if there was some type of restaurant that had high traffic. So with what you're wanting to do, I'll move for approval.
Second.
Got a motion approved, Commissioner Owen, second, Commissioner Myers. No other comments, please record your vote.
It did light up. It's yes. Okay, thank you.
With Commissioner Myers voting yes, motion carried 7-0.
Next item.
Next item is agenda item F3, rezoning PD 22-0943. The applicant is Joe Beauchamp Properties. The request is to rezone a 14.93 acre parcel from agricultural industrial to a planned development to provide for 228,000 square feet of warehousing within a light industrial plan future land use category. Staff is recommending approval subject to conditions. The Planning Commission found it consistent, and the zoning hearing master recommended approval, and staff's available for any questions.
Is the applicant here? Good morning.
Sorry. Good morning, Isabel Albert with Half Associates. This application is pretty straightforward. This is a rezoning for planned development to allow a warehouse development there. The future land use is light industrial, and I'm really here if you have any questions. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Anyone here in support? Anyone in opposition? Planning Commission?
Thank you. For the record, Melissa Leinhard, Planning Commission staff. The subject property is located within the light industrial planned future land use category. The site is in the rural area, and it is not located within the limits of a community plan. The intent of the LIP future land use category is to designate areas of concentrated industrial development that involve processing of non-hazardous and non-toxic materials and create a minimal degree of impact to the surrounding environment. The proposed use meets the intent of Objective 4 of the future land use element and will not be changing the existing character of the area, which is currently large lot, low-density rural residential dwellings interspersed with agricultural uses and limited industrial uses. The proposed rezoning is not subject to commercial locational criteria because it is not a freestanding neighborhood serving commercial use. Rather, it is a traditional industrial warehouse in an industrial future land use category. The subject site meets the intent of future land use element Objective 16 and its accompanying policies regarding the protection of adjacent land uses through various mitigation measures and the transition of uses. The subject site is currently vacant land that is zoned agricultural industrial and is directly adjacent to commercial intensive zoning, commercial intensive zoned agricultural uses at the intersection of Beauchamp Road and Branch Forbes Road. To the east of the site are existing warehouse uses, and south of the site are vacant and agricultural lands interspersed with single-family residential. The proposed use does not encroach on the low-density future land use category residential 1 on the north side, as it is separated by Interstate 4. The proposed rezoning also meets the intent of Objective 26 and Policy 26.5 of the future land use element that seek to restrict non-industrial uses in industrial and employment areas for securing long-term economic development. Warehousing is a permitted use in the light industrial plan future land use category, and the applicant has not proposed any commercial or retail uses on site. The proposed rezoning therefore conforms to the desired land use pattern. Based upon those considerations, Planning Commission staff finds the proposed plan development consistent with the unincorporated Hillsborough County Comprehensive Plan, and that is subject to the conditions proposed by Development Services. Thank you.
Thank you. Hearing Master.
The zoning hearing master considered the applicant's request to rezone approximately 14.93 acres from agricultural industrial to planned development to develop a 220,000 square foot warehouse with ancillary uses. The proposed warehouse equates to a floor area ratio of 0.35, which is significantly less than what could be considered under the existing light industrial plan land use category, which permits up to a FAR of 0.5. The Planning Commission staff, as you heard, supports the request and found it consistent with the comprehensive plan. The zoning hearing master concluded that the proposed rezoning is consistent with the land development code and the comprehensive plan and recommended approval.
Thank you. Commissioner Owen.
My district, yeah, so this is, I think we need these type of properties out in my district, so I'm for this. Just one confirmation, we did have a letter that had some concern about improvements to a bridge. The applicant is going to be paying for those improvements, and is that correct?
Yes, sir. Condition 9 of the rezoning will require the widening of the Beauchamp from the project entrance to Branch Forbes, and construction of 5-foot paved shoulders, and widening the existing bridge to match that widening.
Move for approval.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Owen, second Commissioner Kemp. No other comments. Please record your vote.
I can take your vote verbally, yes. Motion carried, 7-0.
F4.
The next item on the agenda, item F4, rezoning PD 22-0949. HTV, we're showing some graphics on the Elmo. If you could show those, appreciate it. This is a request to rezone a parcel that's on the east side of Bell Shoals Road. It's a 7.59 acre parcel. The request is to rezone it from agricultural single family 1, which the minimum lot size of 1 acre, to planned development for 14 single family homes with a minimum lot size of 10,000 square feet. As you'll see from the site plan, that's proposed site plan with access to Myrtle Road. Lot sizes range from 10,000 to I think up to 13,000 square feet, but again, the minimum lot size is 10,000 square feet. Staff did find this approvable. The Planning Commission found this consistent with the comprehensive plan. I would note that per the minimum density requirements, the requirement would normally be for 3 units per acre to be demonstrated at zoning. Since this is a Res 4 plan category, the zone density of this is 1.89 acres. Again, as Planning Commission will address in their comments. They found justification for waiver relief from that minimum density requirement, then found it consistent, and the hearing officer recommended approval. Staff's available for any questions if you have them.
Thank you. The applicant here? Good morning, sir.
Good morning. My name is Colin Rice, attorney at the law firm of Shoemaker, Loop, and Kendrick, 101 East Kennedy Boulevard, Suite 2800, here with my colleague Elizabeth Keller for the applicant. We'll briefly run through basically an abbreviated version of our presentation before the land use hearing officer to familiarize you with the project. And this is page 193 of the agenda packet. This is all in the record, so nothing here is new. Next slide. So again, we're going to rezone to plan development for the development of 14 total dwelling units in the Res 4 future land use designation. So this is, just to orient you, we are in Valrico, north of Boyette Road, south of Bloomingdale, and just east of Bell Shoals Road. Next. Again, residential 4 land use designation, 7.6 acres. So this could sustain about 30 dwelling units. Again, we're seeking just under half that, about 2 dwelling units per acre. We're within the urban service area in the Garden Estates District Brandon Community Plan. Next. So this is a zoomed in portion of the site plan, shows the cul-de-sac design, 14-unit layout. All lots are between 11,000 and 14,000 square feet. As Mr. Grady had alluded, the comprehensive plan encourages a little bit higher density than we're seeking here, but for compatibility reasons, 1, and 2, to preserve these important environmental features on site, there's a significant wildlife habitat present on the southeast corner, which will be preserved in its entirety, in addition to a wetland, which will be preserved in its entirety. So that, took a certain amount of the lot area, and we think as a whole, this package really makes a lot of sense for this area. Next. I want to highlight a couple of the features with this proposal, in addition to the environmental features that are being showcased and preserved. We do want to point out as well, there's enhanced buffering and screening associated with this property beyond what's required of code, which we think is important for compatibility with the neighborhood. We did attempt to have a virtual meeting with the community on September 14th. That letter went out with the notice mailing. It was not attended. I was there, unfortunately. You may hear some commentary about traffic. I just want to point out it's an extremely negligible increase in trips. We're entitled for 7 units. We're seeking 7 additional, result in 5 a.m. peak hour weekday trips and 7 p.m. week hour trips for weekdays. And if warranted at the time of development, a turn lane will be installed along Myrtle to Bell Shoals. So with that, I'll conclude. I'm happy to answer any questions, but just to summarize, we have across the board support from Planning Commission, from county staff, and the zoning hearing officer. We think this is a really appropriate project for this site at appropriate density. And again, we have universal support from all agencies reviewing. We appreciate your time, respectfully request your approval. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, sir. Is anyone here wants to speak in support? Anyone in opposition? Planning Commission? No, there is. Well, come forward, please. Good morning. You'll have a total of 10 minutes.
I'll probably take 1.
Excellent.
Good morning, Commissioners. I'm Joan Allagood, and I live on Crepe Myrtle Lane at the dead end. Crepe Myrtle and Myrtle together are only 1/2 of a mile. And I would like to say that, first of all, Myrtle Road is a substandard road for a development. I also have been hearing words listening to these 2 hearings of compatible with the area and consistent. And I would say that the compatible with the area would be 1 house per acre maximum. If you look at the surrounding areas, we have Emerald Creek with 16 houses on 20 acres. We have Myrtle Road with 13 houses on 20 acres. and we have crepe myrtle with 6 houses. It's a very rural area. There's not much of that left. I would ask you to preserve it and only rule for 1 house per acre. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Anyone else in opposition? Morning, sir.
How you doing? I'm here in opposition to this proposed development as well. We've attended meetings, the prior zoning meeting in regards to this. We gave what we believe was...
Excuse me, sir.
Sorry.
Can you please state your name?
Oh, I'm sorry, Christopher Jordan.
Thank you.
So I just have several key things that I just wanted to mention. I understand that a lot of these developments come before you guys. I ask that you maybe take a good look at this. This is one of the last few country-setting blocks in the area. I moved out of a development similar to what they proposed years ago, spent well over $500,000 and another couple $100,000 in improvements on this block. As a community together, we were also forgotten about by the county. Former County Commissioner White, we worked with him about 2 years ago when they forgot about us to give us a turn lane to get in and out of our street. At the end of the day, we were told, sorry, we screwed up, but there's nothing we can do to change it now. We all live on 1 to 2 acre parcels. This proposed development is going to completely change that. Also, I heard one of the commissioners, Commissioner Myers, you mentioned that public safety is #1 in Hillsborough County. That's a very good point. This street, which isn't even wide enough for 2 cars to pass, right now we have to pull over to the side of the road to allow one of our neighbors to pass us. Also, we can't exit the block and head south if you had an emergency that you wanted to go to a hospital south. As well as emergency personnel, emergency vehicles, there's no way ambulances or fire trucks coming south on Bell Shoals could get to our block because how we were forgotten 2 years ago. But now we're being told that we can add another 14 homes onto this block, which we highly disagree with. The wildlife has been addressed. I would assume they say, okay, well, we're going to give the corner of the property to the wildlife. That'll be good enough. I don't necessarily agree with that. I also heard a comment about traffic, that they're going to need something in regards to the traffic count to be adjusted. I'm not sure what that is. All I could say is I'm all for growth in Hillsborough County, but at some point, can we care a little bit about the people that have been here for years? I know that growth is good, but also we need to care about the people that are long-term residents of this county. I moved here almost 20 years ago. I own local businesses. It now takes me, my business on Kings Avenue in Brandon, just to go down Bell Shoals Road. Instead of taking me about 8 or 9 minutes to get to my office 4.5 miles away, it now takes me almost an hour, which is absurd. But that's because we keep allowing growth prior to having the infrastructures in. I'm very happy to hear that you said widening Lithia Pinecrest. Maybe that'll take some of our congestion away. I just wish before we keep adding more and more and more housing that we would have the infrastructures in place, including all the properties that are south of us down Boyette that were approved years ago prior to the road widening of Bell Shoals. We've also been living this Bell Shoals nightmare for the last 2 years, and we just can't. We just ask that you please reconsider this.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Rebecca Drew. I am a member of the community where the proposed development is going to go.
Excuse me.
Yes.
Ma'am, you didn't speak at the zoning hearing master hearing?
No.
Or
You
I
can't speak
don't
then.
see anything in the record that you submitted either. So If you can just wait 1 minute, I need to check the mailing list. Are you in close proximity to this?
I am.
Okay, let me verify whether you're able to continue to speak.
Okay.
Drew, D-R-E-W?
Excuse me, ma'am. I actually live with Chris Jordan on Myrtle Road. I don't know if you're going to have my name there or not, because he's the homeowner.
I'm sorry, I do not have you as a receipt of notice on this application, and unfortunately without that or without having placed something in the record or spoken at the hearing, our rules are very clear. I'd certainly expect that others will probably speak to the same concerns that you share with them.
Yeah, you have 4.5 minutes. Ms. Jordan wants to speak on your behalf. More than welcome to do that, but we have to go by the parties of record.
No, that's okay.
I think she was just going to touch on some points of, but I am a little bit confused. You're saying that if she didn't speak at the last hearing, that this portion is in public to speak at?
Yes, our rules for rezonings and major modifications require that the person who speaks at the Board of County Commission meeting have already established themselves as a party of record under the code.
Understood. Thank you very much. I guess she was going to touch on the three outlets, meaning Bell Shoals, 301, Lithia, Pinecrest, being horrendous to begin with, and now trying to add 14 more homes onto that with a traffic count. She was also going to touch on the emergency egress in and out of the street, to hope that based on that alone, this project should not be allowed. I did also want to add that we had said, even at the last meeting, that we, as a community, in the help of the continued growth, that we wouldn't have been opposed to 1 home per acre to stay conforming with what's there. Obviously, that wasn't taken into consideration, but we did offer that we'd have no opposition to that, if that were the case. And I know that, I guess one thing that I've never understood is when they talk about the future land use, and this is residential 4, future land use, yada, yada, yada. I guess as a simple man, when is the future? Who decides? The future is now, the future's in the year 2042. Who decides that future land use to say, hey, let's go ahead and pull the trigger and allow, we just feel this congestion just getting out of control, and it's in the hands of a board here that could help us or not help us. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Is anyone else in opposition? Okay, the applicant has an opportunity for a 5-minute rebuttal.
Thank you. Colin Rice again for the applicant for rebuttal. We can appreciate the area-wide concerns. I do want to point out that the condition of Bell Shoals or the road conditions in Valrico are frankly outside of our control. And I know that Bell Shoals is actively being improved, but these are factors that are beyond the scope of what we're proposing here, which is 7 additional units and a very, very minimal increase and trip generation. I will point out, this is also in the record, that the administrative variance for the substandard road, which was addressed, was found approvable by the county's traffic engineer. So that's been considered and thoroughly vetted by the county and has been found approvable. And lastly, I'll just conclude by offering that we've got a very full record. There's a full hearing before the zoning hearing master, and that's got to be the basis for the decision today. While we're sympathetic to conditions in this part of the county, there frankly just isn't competent substantial evidence in the record to support a denial of this application. So with that, we respectfully request your consideration of the record, the across-the-board consistent findings from all reviewing agencies. Again, I'm happy to answer any questions. I appreciate your time this morning.
Thank you, sir. Planning Commission.
Thank you. Melissa Leinhard, Planning Commission staff. The subject property is located within the residential 4 future land use category. The site is located in the urban service area and also within the limits of the Brandon Community Plan. The intent of this future land use category is to designate areas that are suitable for low-density residential development. The residential 4 future land use category includes a maximum consideration of density of 4 dwelling units per gross acre. The proposal meets the intent of future land use element objective 1 and policy 1.4 by providing for growth within the urban service area. The maximum number of units that can be considered for the property is 30 units, given with 7.6 acres multiplied by 4. Per future land use element policy 1.2, the minimum density required is 22 dwelling units. With 14 dwelling units, the proposed development will not meet minimum density requirements as outlined under future land use element policy 1.2. However, the project does meet 2 exceptions to minimum density as outlined under policy 1.3. The development proposed 75% of the maximum density allowed by the future land use category would not be compatible with and could adversely impact the surrounding development pattern. Again, that would be with 22 units versus the 14 that are proposed today. In addition, the site contains significant wildlife habitat on the southeastern portion of the property, which meets the exception to minimum density regarding adverse impacts to environmental features. Therefore, the proposed density of 14 total dwelling units meets the exception to minimum density and is consistent with future land use element policies 1.2 and 1.3. The proposal also meets the compatibility requirement of policy 1.4 as the predominant character of the area is single-family residential dwellings at comparable densities. The surrounding area contains mostly single-family homes, agricultural uses, and some public and institutional uses. The subject property currently contains agricultural uses, and to the northeast and west is single-family residential development. To the northwest and south is vacant land and a church. The proposal meets the intent of Objective 16 and its accompanying policies that require new development, infill, and redevelopment be compatible with the surrounding area in character, lot size, and density. In this case, the proposal is consistent with the general character of the surrounding area, which is low-density residential. Goals 6 and strategies 3, 4, and 5 of the Brandon Community Plan require each of the character districts to follow a specific development pattern and be compatible with the surrounding area. The subject property is located within the Garden Estates district of the Brandon Community Plan, where the predominant residential style is dwellings on half-acre lots or more. The surrounding residential development pattern includes a predominant lot size of 10,000 square feet or larger. The proposed site plan indicates an average lot size between 11 and 14,000 square feet, which is compatible with the surrounding densities and is compatible with the vision of the Garden Estates Character District. And based upon those considerations, Planning Commission staff finds the proposed plan development consistent with the unincorporated Hillsborough County Comprehensive Plan, subject to the conditions proposed by the Development Services Department. Thank you.
Hearing Master.
The zoning hearing master considered the applicant's request for a rezoning of 7.6 acres from ASC1 to planned development to permit the development of 14 single-family homes. The current ASC1 zoning district would permit the development of up to 7 single-family homes on the subject property. Testimony in opposition was presented during the ZHM hearing, and letters in opposition were filed with the county. The zoning hearing master summarized the testimony as from neighbors who questioned the applicant's representative's assertion that a neighborhood meeting was held but no one attended. Additionally, concerns were expressed regarding the proposed lot sizes being incompatible with the surrounding lots, the additional traffic associated with the proposed 14 single-family homes, and the condition of Myrtle Road. The applicant's representative showed a copy of the invitation to the neighborhood meeting, which was included in the adjacent property owner notice. The zoning hearing master stated that the lot sizes are conditioned to be a minimum of 11,000 or 12,000 square feet, depending on the proposed lot type. County transportation staff testified at the hearing that Myrtle Road meets the county's standards for road width, and that zoning conditions include a requirement that at the time of plat or site construction plan review, a site access analysis will be required to determine if turn lanes are warranted. If so, such turn lanes would be constructed at the time of development. The zoning hearing master concluded that the rezoning to planned development for the development of 14 single-family homes is consistent with the parcel's location within the urban service area. The increase from the currently permitted 7 dwelling units to 14 dwelling units was found to be compatible with the surrounding zoning and land use pattern, as well as the land development code and comprehensive plan. And the zoning hearing master therefore recommended approval.
Commissioner Owen?
Yes, this is my district. And first, let me say, I'm probably the only commissioner that can say I feel your pain. I'm your neighbor, okay? I live right next to the old St. Stephen's Church. I'm one of the ones that are benefited. I can go left or right. I know you folks can only go right, and after the improvements, you definitely can only go right. I drove down the road over the weekend. I went over there and took a look at it. I've heard your complaints. I know you guys have also contacted your state representative as well. So all those complaints have gotten to me. And they're right about the road. I really question our position on that. It meets road requirements because it's about 1.5 lanes, and then Crepe Myrtle Road is actually you guys didn't mention it, but it's actually a shell road. Is it a shell or rock road? So, you know, that was one of my big issues. Now, the one thing I do want to tell my constituents here is that what they're doing here, that puts us in a tough spot because what they're doing here is under the density limit that they could do. So they're actually proposing less, and that puts us as a board in a tough spot whenever they're proposing less density. The 1 house per acre, Mr. Gormley, people referenced the garden district, and that's kind of when they're referencing the garden district, that's more of a template of what Brandon was, right? The 1 house per acre. It's not what we have to follow in the area. Could you confirm that?
The Brandon Community Plan recognizes the garden district and recognizes that a lot of homes in there are a minimum of ½ acre, but it does not prescribe a absolute requirement for ½ acre lots in the garden district.
Okay. And as they stated, what this particular proposal is, it sounds like the lot sizes are the minimum, but they're actually proposing less homes. Am I getting that right?
Their lot sizes are 11 and 12,000, so just over, just under over a ½ acre minimum lot size. The density that they're requesting is a density of 1.8 units per acre, where the comprehensive plan allows for consideration of up to 4 units per acre. So that density going below what the comprehensive plan would allow, and also below the minimum density, was supported based on the character of the area and the lot sizes, and it was found to be compatible. So that lower density was supported based on the character of the surrounding area.
Yeah, and this is the tough spot we're in. I mean, if you go down not too far parallel to your neighborhood, cross over Bloomingdale, you'll have Giles Road. You're familiar with that. And very similar sale of land over there. And I know they're going to be proposing a lot of townhomes. And so the reason why I'm going to move to approve this is for those reasons, is that the applicant here is working less within the density that they're required to work within. And I don't know what this would become later, if you would be facing that same situation later. So I just want you all to know that I appreciate you being here. I feel your pain, but I do have to move for approval on this just because they're asking for less density, and it's consistent.
We got a motion to approve, Commissioner Owen.
Second.
Second, Commissioner Myers. Commissioner Wostel?
Thank you, Chair. I'll be brief as always. I wanted to clear one thing. We keep using the word approvable, and the applicant said, quote, that the board has got to approve this, I believe were the exact words. Right now, it's planned for 1 home per acre, correct?
Yes, the zoning on the land allows for 1 home per acre. The current zoning, the operative zoning, yes, sir.
So do we have to change it, or could it simply be approved to say we can't support it and it's approved for 1 home per acre and the surrounding community is largely 1 home per acre, so?
So I mean, it is the board's decision to make. I'll say that our review has identified that this is supportable, it's consistent with the comprehensive plan.
It's supportable, but not required.
So I believe what the applicant was putting forward, that they're making an, I'll say it loosely, an argument that there's not a legal basis to deny the rezoning. I believe that's what that statement was alluding to. It is the board's decision as to approval or not. It is something that we believe is supportable, and I'll stop there if that addresses your question.
Can council, can you elaborate? Does it legally, do we just have to say yes, even though it's already zoned for 1 in the surrounding? Could there be arguments to say that, hey, this was zoned for 1, the surrounding community is 1, and the local infrastructure can't support it? Would that also be a valid argument?
Yes, sir. And as Mr. Gormley noted, this is ultimately the board's decision. Florida courts do look to, in reviewing the board's decision on a rezoning, the presence of substantial competent evidence in the record. So in order to support the board's decision, were the board to deny, the board would have to point to some substantial competent evidence in the record, or establish that the decision was based on that record evidence. And as you heard, the applicant's representative has made an argument that it is supported by substantial competent evidence. So, ultimately, it is up to the board. I will note that the record here with the staff recommendations and the Planning Commission's recommendations is overall supportive of approval.
Okay, then just the point, Chair, is that this is a very small road, and the argument of it's only 7 more cars, well, 7 more on a lane that already can't exit because of just ridiculous traffic could be a long extra wait in the morning. So I think that they made a big problem actually sound like something very small. And maybe that's something we need to look into in the future from the Planning Commission side, and when we're saying that it's approvable, when in fact there's other variables that it's not so approvable. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Kemp.
I just thought it was important as well to explain that while it's existing zoning as an ASC1, there is the overlying comprehensive plan, future land use designation, which allows, and I think this is what Commissioner Owen was saying, which would permit, as the staff stated, 22 dwellings. So if we didn't approve this, they're entitled, and maybe council could confirm this, they could go in there tomorrow and put in 22 dwellings under the current, I mean, you know, with they could propose many more dwellings.
Yes, that's correct. They could make a request for more dwellings than they have.
Because there's already an entitlement to that under the future land comprehensive plan designation.
The future, yes, the comprehensive plan allows for consideration of more units than what is being requested.
I just think it's important. I don't want to mislead people. We could, I think this is what Commissioner Owen was trying to say. We could say no to this, and I think the road considerations by both accounts and by the accounts of people here who came to speak are something, and I wonder about the, the prior approval of or designation of that. But I do think it's important for people to understand that there's a overlying comprehensive plan that was done some time ago that gave it 4 units per an acre, far greater than this would be. And they could come back in and ask for more than they have here. This is a more modest request. So I would just like to clarify that so no one is confused by that. And I just wanted to have it confirmed by council as well, not just my interpretation, but the possibility there.
Okay, we have a motion to approve, Commissioner Owen, second Commissioner Myers. And I just want to say, Commissioner Wilson, I share your concerns with some of the comments from the applicant. We will frequently hear the term substantial competent evidence. End of the day, it is at this board's discretion. But I want to say that personally, I do not see a legal basis to deny from a lot of the comments. The reason why, based on a lot of the comments from other board members here, so that's why I am going to support it. I have no other comments. Please record your vote.
Motion carried 5-2. Commissioners Cameron, Cepeda, and Wostel voted no.
Next item.
The next item is agenda item F5, rezoning PD 22-1103. This is a request to rezone a 17.4 acre parcel on the east side of Fernhill Drive from agricultural rural to planned development. The proposal is for 104 units, a single family detached in a zero lot line type development layout. This was found compatible by Development Services. Planning Commission found it consistent with the comprehensive plan, and the hearing officer recommended approval. Staff's available if you have any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Is the applicant present? Good morning.
Good morning, Cammie Corbett with the law firm of Hill, Ward & Henderson, representing the applicant Onyx and East this morning. We did have a presentation, but in the interest of time, I'll keep it brief. We do have our planner, our transportation engineer, and our civil engineer here to answer any questions, but I did want to just show you this one image of the product. It's a very nice architectural alley-loaded, rear-loaded product, and Onyx and East takes a lot of pride in the products that they put out, and just wanted to show that to you. And with that, we're here to answer any questions and respectfully request your approval.
Thank you. I don't believe there's anyone that is a party of record, but is there anyone here who wants to speak in support? Anyone in opposition? Planning Commission?
Sorry about that. Thank you. Melissa Leinhard for the record, Planning Commission staff. The subject property is located in the suburban mixed-use 6 future land use category. The site is located in the urban service area and also within the limits of the Riverview Community Plan and the South Shore Area-wide Systems Plan. The SMU 6 category is intended for urban and suburban intensity and density of uses. The proposed density is consistent with the intent of the suburban mixed-use 6 future land use category. The subject property is surrounded by SMU 6 on all sides, and surrounding the property there are mainly single-family residential uses to the north, east, and south, and heavy commercial and light industrial uses across Fernhill Road to the west. The proposal meets the intent of Objective 1 of the future land use element of the comprehensive plan by providing for growth within the urban service area. The proposed plan development meets the minimum density required per future land use element policy 1.2 by providing for 104 single-family residential units on 17.4 acres. This is consistent with the density expected in the SMU 6 future land use category. The proposal also meets the intent of future land use element policy 1.4 as the site is mainly surrounded by similar single-family residential uses. The applicant is proposing access to the development from Fernhill Road. An internal roadway network, including alleys, to provide for circulation within the neighborhood is proposed with off-site connectivity and clustering of the development away from the on-site environmentally sensitive lands, which is consistent with policy direction. The request is consistent with several goals found in the Riverview Community Plan and the South Shore Area-wide Systems Plan. The request would provide residential development that is consistent with existing development in the surrounding area and also protects the existing natural environment. The proposal complements the surrounding character and promotes housing diversity, which is part of the vision of the Riverview Community Plan. And based upon those considerations, Planning Commission staff finds the proposed plan development consistent with the unincorporated Hillsborough County comprehensive plan, subject to the conditions proposed by Hillsborough County Development Services. Thank you.
Zoning Hearing Master.
The zoning hearing master considered the request to rezone 17.4 acres from AR, agricultural rural, to planned development to develop 104 single-family homes. The Planning Commission staff, as you heard, has found this request to be supportive and consistent with, and consistent with the Riverview Community Plan and the comprehensive plan. No testimony in opposition was provided at the zoning hearing master hearing. One letter in opposition was filed expressing concerns about the larger issue of growth in South County and the condition of roads and schools in the area. This letter did not pertain specifically to the subject rezoning. The rezoning to plan development for the development of 104 single-family homes was found by the zoning hearing master to be consistent with the parcel's location within the urban service area. The zoning hearing master noted the applicant's commitment to certain traditional neighborhood design concepts, which the zoning hearing master found to be promoting of compatibility with the surrounding area. The zoning hearing master found that the project is consistent with the existing zoning and land use pattern in the area, as well as with the code and comprehensive plan, and recommended approval.
Thank you. It's a pleasure of the board.
Move for approval.
Motion approved, Commissioner Myers, second Commissioner Cohen. For no comments, please record your vote.
Motion carried 7-0.
Thank you. Next item.
The next item is agenda item F6, major mod application 22-1112. This is for a major modification of the existing plan development. Michelle Heinrich will provide a brief overview of the request.
Hi, good morning, Michelle Heinrich. As stated, this is a major modification of PD 970113, and it's known in the area as Winthrop, which is a residential, commercial, and office T&D development. The area of modification is in the southwest portion of the PD, which is currently approved for multifamily uses. The applicant requests a second development option, which would allow the expansion of a existing K-8 charter school and to establish a new daycare center. 3 assigned entrances will be utilized to ensure traffic flow. And just to back up briefly, when this PD was originally approved, we didn't have the requirement in the code for a queuing plan. So as part of this modification, the applicants have worked with staff to provide a queuing plan to make sure that traffic flow will occur and not impact any of the other uses. So as stated, the school will be using 3 assigned entrances, and they will also be using queuing lanes around the school as well as an off-campus drop-off pickup area. Attendants will be stationed in both areas to monitor for circulation and safety, and a designated walking route between the school and office campus is utilized. Staff found this approvable, subject to conditions, and I'm available if you have any questions.
Thank you. Is the applicant here?
Good morning again, Commissioners. William Malloy, 325 South Boulevard, Tampa, Florida. As Ms. Heinrich said, this began as a very simple application simply to expand the charter school that's already existing in Winthrop and to add an early learning or daycare center. We did discover in that process that we did not have a queuing plan on file, which honestly took us most of the last calendar year to perfect, but we have perfected that queuing plan. What you see in your backup actually represents a worst case scenario for the queue, as though all the children were being picked up or dropped off in one time frame. In practicality, the school is going to distinguish 4 different pickup and drop-off times. So we have provided a plan that works en masse, worst case scenario, but it will not be that bad. I want to make that clear. We had 2 meetings with the community early on. The tenor of both of those was very positive. We're putting the school expansion where multifamily presumptively could have been in the development, and that seemed to make a lot of folks awfully comfortable and more supportive of the project. We did have a former member of your staff come in and testify in support of our project. That was the only testimony at ZHM, and we're here to ask for your support and answer any questions if we can. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone here in support of the application want to speak? Anyone in opposition? Planning Commission?
Melissa Leinhardt, Planning Commission staff. The subject property is located within the residential 6 future land use category. The site is in the urban service area and also within the limits of the Riverview Community Plan as well as the South Shore Area-Wide Systems Plan. The proposed major modification is in an area that is well-established mixed-use development that is known for its connected mix of retail and residential development. The expansion of the school and the introduction of daycare, both of which are considered residential support uses, would further contribute to the mixed-use nature of the overall development. Residential support uses are permitted in all residential future land use categories per future land use element objective 17 and policy 17.1, as long as the proposed use is compatible with the surrounding area. The site is part of a larger mixed-use development known as Winthrop Village and includes a mix of residential, commercial, and other residential support uses. Access to the charter school and child care center will be through Grand Winthrop Avenue, which is off of Providence Road. Pedestrian connectivity is achieved with a network of sidewalks that will be internal to the development and connected to the surrounding village area. The school is comparable and compatible with the surrounding area and is consistent with Objective 16 and its associated policies, as it provides a transition of uses away from the intersection of Bloomingdale and Providence, where the commercial uses are located, while the residential support uses will be further south on Providence. The uses are also connected to the residential uses, but are still external to them so as to not impede residential traffic or cause a compatibility concern. The subject site is within the limits of the South Shore Area-Wide Systems Plan, which recognizes the preferred development pattern of each of its smaller communities. Goal 10 of the Riverview Community Plan seeks to maintain and support high-quality schools, also serving as community amenities. The plan also supports educational diversity and the location of specialty schools within its boundary, and as such, the major modification request supports that vision. Based upon those considerations, Planning Commission staff finds the proposed modification consistent with the future of Hillsborough Comprehensive Plan for unincorporated Hillsborough County, subject to the conditions proposed by Development Services. Thank you.
Thank you. Zoning Hearing Master.
The zoning hearing master considered plan development rezoning of the subject property, a major modification request to the plan development on the subject property, which is currently approved for 172,000 square feet of neighborhood commercial land use, 100 student child care center, a 1,300 student charter school, 286 multifamily dwelling units, and 412 single-family dwelling units. The request will propose a second development option to increase the number of students for the charter school from 1,300 to 1,810 in grades K through 8, and add a 180 student child care center within this charter school area. As you've heard, the Planning Commission staff supports this modification and found it consistent with the Riverview Community Plan and the Comprehensive Plan. The zoning hearing master found that the proposed modification will result in additional educational opportunities for residents in the area and will improve the overall traffic condition for the existing school. A designated queuing plan and transportation improvements that include turn lanes and additional sidewalks will serve to alleviate current transportation conflicts. The zoning hearing master concluded that this modification is consistent with the plan and with the land development code and recommended approval.
Commissioner Owen.
Yes, this is my district. Mr. Sullivan, Ms. Manchisi, welcome to the county building. For those of you that may not know, Winthrop is one of the most beautiful places in my district. Commissioner Myers, you and I share Riverview. It's where every event is held, whether it's at the barn or the Regent in the very back. It's got great restaurants like Dat's, and there's even a Starbucks in there, but also Publix as well. And I can tell you the queuing in this area for the school has been a real challenge, I think, for some of the businesses in there. I'm so glad to see this. this, folks, that you put this together. And Commissioner Myers, we need more places for students. This is a wonderful school and a wonderful community. So I can't tell you how excited I am about this. Thank you for bringing this forward, and I am in full support, and I will move for approval.
Second.
Motion approved, Commissioner Owen, second Commissioner Kemp. Commissioner Kemp?
Yes, I'll just say as well that when I've been campaigning around the county at any time or meetings or any time, I have heard so many people refer to Winthrop and say, we want to live in a place like Winthrop. And I just think, I use it as an example often when I'm asked about where there is development that is kind of a model and that people want. Very walkable community, but I as well think that the way the commercial, the retail was, you know, you have the big road in front, and the way the retail was done to get both the traffic on the road, but also allow for people from the development in the back to walk there and use that. I just, I often tell people they should need to go there and see it and enjoy it, and it is a great pleasure. I mean, I've been to many restaurants there, the barn and everything else, so it's a wonderful development.
Commissioner Owen, you make another comment?
Yeah, and I'm glad you said that. I should have mentioned too, this is mixed use. There's a lot of residential in this community too. So I know this is going to be just wonderful having this queuing set up. And again, I just want to thank you all for bringing this forward. And like I said, I'm in full support of this.
And I want to echo Commissioner Owen and Commissioner Kemp's comments about Winthrop. Mr. Sullivan, I just want to say we need more conscientious developers like you. You've done a remarkable job. And just a quick comment, has absolutely nothing to do with this application. As a parent that has a nightmare of a queuing situation every day at Hillsborough High School since the city of Tampa has been working on their public works around there for seemingly years and years, speaking for parents everywhere, I appreciate all the work you put into on queuing internally and making this process work. With that, no other comments. Please record your vote.
Motion carried 7-0.
Next item.
The next item is agenda item F7. It's rezoning PD 22-1224. The request is a rezone of 33.5 acre approximate parcel from agricultural rural to planned development. The request is for 146 units consisting of a mix of 96 townhomes and 50 single-family homes. Access to the property would be out on Southeast 12th Street, as evidenced by for the site plan. The balance of the development is located in the northeast portion of the property. Staff reviewed this and found it approvable. Planning Commission found it consistent with the comprehensive plan, including the Ruskin Community Plan, and the hearing officer recommended approval. Staff's available for any questions.
All right, thank you. Is the applicant here? Good morning, sir.
Yes, sir. Good morning. Jake Kramer with Stearns Weaver Miller, 401 East Jackson Street, number 2100. Commissioners, it's great to be back here in person. I'm really glad to be able to do business with you again in person. Good to be here. This is a companion application to an item that was on consent and approved earlier this morning for another piece of this project. On this application, we have all recommendations of approval. We have no variations or waivers. We worked hard to make sure with this application that we met the letter and spirit of the Ruskin Community Plan, and we protected the floodway that constrains this property. We worked hard with staff on this, and we asked for your approval. Our entire team is here, including a representative of the builder, D.R. Horton, in case you have any questions. Thank you.
Is anyone here in support of the application? Anyone in opposition? Planning Commission?
Thank you. Melissa Leinhardt, Planning Commission staff. The subject property is located within the suburban mixed-use 6 future land use category. The site is located in the urban service area and also within the limits of the Ruskin Community Plan, as well as the South Shore Area-Wide Systems Plan. The subject site is in the urban service area where, according to Objective 1 of the future land use element, 80% of the county's growth is to be directed. Policy 1.4 requires that all new developments be compatible with the surrounding area, noting that compatibility does not mean the same as, rather it refers to the sensitivity of development proposals in maintaining the character of existing development. The proposed residential density in the SMU6 designation is compatible with the existing character of the development in the area, which is consistent with this policy direction. The proposal is also consistent with future land use element policies 1.2 and 1.3 as they relate to minimum density. The majority of the site is located within the coastal high hazard area, or CHHA, and has 2.66 acres of wetlands. The site meets the exception under policy 1.3 to have an allowable density of less than 75% of the maximum permitted due to its location in the coastal hazard. The maximum allowable density is 201 dwelling units, and 146 dwelling units are being proposed. The proposed rezoning meets the intent of future land use element objective 16 and its associated policies regarding neighborhood protection. The stormwater retention areas proposed on the west and south sides of the property will serve as a buffer and protect the environmentally sensitive lands that are on site. The proposed density and lot sizes are reflective of the surrounding neighborhoods, and the site plan also shows an efficient system of internal circulation with main access off of 12th Street and a proposed sidewalk on 12th Street extending down to College Avenue. The subject site meets the intent of the Ruskin Community Plan and the South Shore Area-Wide Systems Plan. Goal 5 of the Ruskin Community Plan provides for diverse home styles and types and includes a strategy to support housing to accommodate a diverse population and income levels. The proposal provides for 2 different home styles and types in the area dominated by single-family detached homes. In addition, Goal 7 of the Ruskin Community Plan encourages higher density residential uses between 12th Street and 3rd Street along College Avenue. The site is just north of College and is between 12th and 3rd Street. The South Shore Plan seeks to create housing opportunities for a diverse population and income level, and the proposed development meets the intent of those housing goals. Based upon those considerations, Planning Commission staff finds the proposed plan development consistent with the unincorporated Hillsborough County Comprehensive Plan, subject to the conditions proposed by Development Services. Thank you.
Thank you. Zoning Hearing Master.
The zoning hearing master considered the applicant's request for rezoning of 33.58 acres from agricultural rural to planned development to develop 50 single-family detached homes and 96 townhomes. As you heard from Ms. Leinhard, the Planning Commission staff has found this request to be consistent with the Ruskin Community Plan and with the comprehensive plan. No testimony in opposition was provided at the zoning hearing master hearing. And the zoning hearing master concluded that the request for rezoning to planned development for the development of 50 single-family detached homes and 96 townhomes is consistent with the parcel's location within the urban service area. The zoning hearing master found the project to be consistent with the existing zoning and land use pattern in the area, as well as with the code and the comprehensive plan. And the zoning hearing master recommended approval.
Commissioner Owen.
Yes, this is my district. The only issue I think that that was of concern, Mr. Gormley, was stormwater. But it looks like half of this property is still going to be left wetlands. And if you could confirm, we would never create a stormwater problem. It would not be approvable if that was the case. So,
yes, that's correct. So if the project were approved, it would go through a construction plan review that would ensure that the constructed stormwater management system complies with all our technical standards. The standard that we apply is that the post-development rate of discharge doesn't exceed the pre-development rate of discharge. So that will be a requirement, if this is approved, that will be implemented in the permitting of the project.
and nothing on this development will impact that creek that's there? Because it looks like there's a creek on the property, correct?
Yes, there's a creek that the water would need to be retained and treated before it is released from the site. So it will not be just contamination going into the creek.
All right, I'll move for approval.
We got a motion to approve. Commissioner Owen, second Commissioner Kemp. Commissioner Wolstel.
Mr. Chair, I'm going to support this. I'm just extremely sad to see another piece of ag land go, and wish we could find a way to make it more feasible for them to stay here. Thank you.
Understood. If no other board member comments, please record your vote.
Motion carried, 7-0.
Thank you. Next item.
The next item is agenda item F8. It's rezoning standard 22-1449. The applicant is Kelly Conti. The request is to rezone a 2.27 acre parcel located on the south side of L Street. The current zoning is RC6. The RC6 zoning district permits conventional site-built homes on a minimum lot size of 7,000 square feet. The request is to rezone the parcel to RC6 with a mobile home overlay. The effect of this modification would add the allowability to have, in addition to standards, conventional homes, mobile homes on the property. Staff did find this approval incompatible with the area, given the fact that there's existing RC6 mobile home zonings immediately to the north of the property and also further to the east. And again, Planning Commission found it consistent, and the hearing officer recommended approval, and staff's available for any questions. Thank you.
Is the applicant here? Anyone? Well, I guess twice in one meeting.
Faith.
Again, has all recommendations of approval.
All recommendations.
At the discretion of the board, but I mean, I see no reason why we can't move ahead with approval. Can we have a motion?
I'll move approval on this. I'll just say too, I had some concerns actually when it was first introduced to me, and one of my issues was that they call it an overlay, which very much concerned me, but I had that satisfied, so I just, for the record, but I'll move approval.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair, there were parties of record and opposition.
See if anyone would like to speak to this item. Is anyone here in support or opposition? Okay, Commissioner Owen.
Yes, this is in my district. I think that we had some letters just concerning, it had to do with property values, correct? It's like concern of a mobile home overlay of negatively impacting property values. And I looked at the property. It seems like it's pretty consistent. There's mobile homes on both sides of the road, correct?
Correct. There's existing mobile home to the west of it, and to the north, the whole area is zoned to allow mobile homes. So there are many instances of mobile homes in the area, either existing or that are already permitted to be installed.
I just don't think I've seen this in a while or ever. I think, as Commissioner Kemp was just alluding to, it's very unique, and I really wish the applicants would show up to these meetings if they're asking for something that's a little bit unique. But I'm afraid we're setting a little bit of a bad precedent here if the applicants aren't showing up and we're just approving. But I'm going to support as well.
Well, you never know. One of them may find out the hard way.
Right.
Okay. So we have a motion to approve. Commissioner Kemp, second Commissioner Cohen. Commissioner Kemp.
And just for the record, I think 2 is the most I've done in all my years here. I mean, it's extraordinarily unusual, and I would not do this but for what they are. So yes, they will find out, and I think that has happened before, Commissioner Hagan.
Yes, it has.
It's their gamble, isn't it?
Right? Yeah. You're rolling the dice. All right, if no other comments, please record your vote.
Motion carried 7-0.
The next item is agenda item F9. It's a request to rezone a 4.8 acre, excuse me. Next item is application F9 rezoning standard 22-1452. The request is to rezone approximately 4.8 acre parcel from AR, agricultural rural, which permits a minimum lot size of 5 acres, to agricultural single family 1, which permits a minimum lot size of 1 unit. The comprehensive plan category is Res 1, which permits a maximum density of 1 unit per acre. Staff found this approvable. There's existing AS1 zonings to the immediate north and east of the property. Planning Commission found it consistent with the comprehensive plan, and zoning hearing master recommended approval, and we're available for any questions. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Is the applicant here, I hope? Good morning, sir.
Good morning. Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Richard Coson. My office address is 330 Pauls Drive, Suite 100 in Brandon. I'm here on behalf of Sandra Gray, who's the trustee of the James Rowland and Jack Will and Rowland Trust. Trust owns a piece of property. It's 4.87 acres. Mr. and Mrs. Rowland have passed, and as the trustee, Sandra Gray is attempting to implement the terms of the trust, which is to split the property up 1 acre to her as the daughter and the remaining part of the property to her brother. We wanted to do it as a family homestead subdivision under the provisions of the Land Development Code, but it's only 4.87 acres, and that requires 5 acres, so we had to go through the rezoning process. As Mr. Grady testified, that the property to the north and the east is zoned as AS1, and the property to the south and west is zoned AR. It is compatible with the neighborhood as it has been developed or as it's currently developed, and it's consistent with the comprehensive plan and the future land use development. The zoning hearing master has recommended approval, and we would request that the commissioners, that you guys approve this. If you have any questions, I'm available for any questions you may have.
Thank you, sir. Is anyone here in support of the application? Anyone in opposition? Planning Commission?
Thank you. Melissa Leinhardt, Planning Commission staff. The subject property is located within the Residential 1 future land use category. The site is in the rural area and also located within the limits of the South Shore Area-Wide Systems Plan. Objective 4 of the future land use element notes that 20% of the growth in the region will occur within the rural area. The request meets the intent of Objective 4 and Policy 4.1 of the future land use element by maintaining the low-density, large lot residential character of the rural area. The intent of the Residential 1 future land use category is to designate areas for low-density, large lot residential uses that are compatible with short-term agricultural uses. The proposed AS1 zoning district requires a 1 acre minimum parcel size, which is consistent with the Residential 1 future land use category. The surrounding area is primarily residential and agricultural with a variety of lot sizes ranging from 1 to 10 acres. The vast majority of lots in this area are approximately 5 acres in size or larger. However, there are several 1 acre lots located north of the property, and the proposed rezoning would allow for a lot size that is compatible with the surrounding area. The request is consistent with the community desire to maintain housing opportunities for all income levels. The request will provide additional single-family housing on large lots and will help maintain a rural character, which is consistent with the vision of the South Shore Area-Wide Systems Plan. Based upon those considerations, Planning Commission staff finds the proposed rezoning consistent with the unincorporated Hillsborough County Comprehensive Plan. Thank you.
Thank you. Hearing Master?
The zoning hearing master considered the applicant's request for a rezoning of the subject property to the AS1 zoning district. The property is 4.8 acres in size, currently zoned agricultural, rural, and designated residential 1 by the comprehensive plan. The property is located within the rural service area and the South Shore area-wide community planning area. The zoning hearing master concluded that the request for the AS1 zoning district on the subject property is compatible with the surrounding zoning pattern and with the Residential 1 future land use category, and recommended approval.
Commissioner Owen?
This is the last one in my district, Commissioners. This is another road I've grown up around. Commissioner Wostel, I'm sorry, it is farmland and been a place that the families here for many generations have farmed. But I think this is the next best thing. Families staying on the property, 1 house per acre. I think this is the best of the future that we can have with these communities. So I'm in full support of this, and I'll move for approval.
Second.
Motion to approve, Commissioner Owen, second Commissioner Kemp. If no other comments, please record your vote.
Motion carried 7-0.
Okay, we have our last 2 items, and I believe we can take them up at the same time.
Yes, the next 2 items are G1A and G1B. G1A is rezoning petition PD 22-0562. It's a request to rezone parcel zone RSC6 and plan development at 7.22 acres to PD for 2 development options. The first option being 52 townhomes and 5,000 square feet of commercial. The second development option is 60 townhomes. This has all recommendations of approval and would otherwise have been on the consent agenda, but for needing to be related to agenda item G1B, a G1B PD that will remain in the PD, and therefore we are recommending approval of G1B. We're available for any questions.
Thank you. The applicant here. Good morning.
Yes, good morning. Isabel Albert with Half Associates. I do have a presentation, but I'm just going to use the Almo just to be quick. So basically, this is the site in red, and it's split zone. It has a planned development along the roadway here, and the owner of this parcel also owns the rear portion. And he wishes to take himself out of that planned development to create a new planned development to allow two options. First option is currently the site along Causeway Boulevard is approved for 5,000 square feet of commercial retail, and he wants to retain that while developing the rear portion as a townhome. That would be one option. Or the second option would be simply to rezone the whole site as a townhome development. But because they're taking this portion out of the overall planned development,
We also have to do a minor modification to the existing plan development to remove this portion out. And by doing so, the remainder of the parcel of the plan development
will retain their uses that they're currently approved for. That's basically what the
request is for, and I'm here if you have any questions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is anyone here in support of the application? Anyone in opposition? Planning Commission?
Thank you. Melissa Leinhard, Planning Commission staff. The subject property is located in the Residential 9 future land use category. The site is located in the urban service area and also within the limits of the Greater Palm River Community Plan. The intent of the Residential 9 future land use category is to designate areas that are suitable for low to medium residential development, as well as urban scale neighborhood commercial, office, and mixed use developments. The proposed development options, which include residential and commercial components, meet the intent of the Residential 9 future land use category. Surrounding uses along Causeway Boulevard include some light and heavy commercial, single-family residential, and multifamily residential. The proposed development options are compatible and in scale with the character of the area, therefore meeting the intent of future land use element policy 1.4 with regard to compatibility. Future land use element objective 16 and its associated policies discuss the need to protect existing neighborhoods and communities. The development pattern along this section of Causeway has a mix of uses, including light and heavy commercial, consistent with the scale that is being proposed in development option 1. Option 1 is also consistent with the flex provision as outlined under policies 7.3 and 7.4 of the future land use element. The applicant is proposing a flex of 2.2 acres of the residential 20 located to the west, which could yield a maximum of 62 dwelling units. The applicant is proposing a maximum of 52 units, which is consistent with the flex provision. The proposed rezoning does not meet commercial locational criteria as it is not located within the required 1,000-foot distance from a qualifying intersection. The nearest two qualifying intersections are Causeway Boulevard and 78th Street and Causeway Boulevard and US 301. However, the proposal does meet the intent of the infill policy 25.3 of the future land use element. More than 50% of the block face where the subject site is located is either commercially zoned or being used for commercial uses. The 5,000 square foot of commercial general uses that will exclude restaurants with drive-throughs in option 2 is comparable in intensity and scale to the surrounding development on the block. Based upon this information and the infill policy provision 25.3, Planning Commission staff does recommend that the Board of County Commissioners grant a waiver to commercial locational criteria. The proposed development options meet the intent of the Greater Palm River Community Plan. Both development options promote and provide for opportunities for comparable residential development and job growth. In addition, the proposal promotes infill and redevelopment at scales that reflect the character of the existing community development pattern, which is consistent with the community plan vision. Based upon those considerations, Planning Commission staff finds the proposed plan development consistent with the unincorporated Hillsborough County Comprehensive Plan, subject to the conditions proposed by Development Services. Thank you.
Thank you. Hearing Master?
The zoning hearing master considered the application to rezone the property to a unified plan development with two development options, including option 1 to allow 5,000 square feet of commercial general uses with restrictions and 52 townhomes, and option 2 to develop the entire property with 60 townhome units. Through a separate PRS process, minor modification to plan development, The applicant is requesting to remove from the PD a folio which is adjacent to the subject property to the east and in use as an automotive shop. For option 2, the applicant is requesting a waiver of the LDC requirement for additional setback of 2 feet for every foot of building height over 20 feet, except adjacent to folio 44656.100. The applicant is proposing a maximum 35-foot building height. Development Services Department staff found this waiver to be supportable. As you've heard from Ms. Leinhardt, the applicant's waiver request relating to commercial locational criteria was found by Planning Commission staff to be supportable. The applicant had also requested a design exception for substandard local roadway improvements on South 86th Street, which the county engineer has found approvable. The zoning hearing master concluded that this request is supportable and consistent with the comprehensive plan and land development code and recommended approval.
Thank you, Commissioner Kemp.
Yes, I'll move approval, and it's always a disappointment to have a substandard road condition. I know that we keep moving those forward. However, I do, the infill, the redevelopment, the mixed use, and as you know, as the Planning Commission knows, I've long questioned the locational criteria, and I guess that's under review. The locational criteria for commercial, as you know, sometimes being not helpful to having a mixed-use development, which I'd like to see so much more of. So I'll move approval.
Second.
Before we vote, I know we have to have a public hearing on G1B, but Commissioner Myers, you're next in the queue.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm just going to say I'm supportive this project is in District 3. And I love to see where District 3, we can enhance with new construction coming into the district. Thank you so much.
Okay, before we vote, did you need to make any comments or presentation for G1B?
No, thank you,
Okay.
unless you have any questions.
All right, it is a public hearing. Anyone here in support or opposition to G1B? If not, okay, we got a motion to approve. Commissioner Kemp, second Commissioner Myers for G1A and G1B. No other comments, please record your vote.
Motion carried 7-0.
All right, great, thank you. Adam, we have anything else?
Nothing else for this agenda.
All right, great, we're adjourned. Thank you.